Samadhanam tva Ganapatin Havamahe Kavim Kavinamupamस्य Vastamam Jyashtarajam Brahmanam Brahmanaspata Ana Hrunvannutibhis Sidasadanam. Om Shri Mahaganadhipataye Namah. Om Vrishabham Charshaninam Vishwarupamadabhyam Brihaspatim Varenyam. Om Tadvishno Paramam Padam Sada Pashyanti Suraya Divi Vachakshuratatam. Om Shrim Hri Mahalakshmyai Namah. Om Shlim Dhrim Jyotirbrahmaya Namah. Can everybody say Hare Ramakrishna 3 times after me? Om Hare Ramakrishna, Hare Ramakrishna, Hare Ramakrishna. Welcome back after a couple of weeks. Last week's conference in California was very good. So actually what I will do today is, after spending 1 hour on Parashara, I will tell you basically what I taught in the class. There is basically nothing new as far as you guys are concerned. You guys know much more than what I taught there. Actually most of the people there were beginner level people. Most of the people at the conference, there were just 2 or 3 people who were advanced in astrology studies. These people basically started recently, so they just have some basics. So I just taught Sripravesh from a very foundation point of view. The only additional topic I covered is Sripravesh for mundane purposes. So basically not just individual charts, but charts of muhurtas, countries, etc. So that is something that I will spend an hour on at the end of this class, so that you guys and also those who listen to the audio, listen to the MP3, can get what I taught in California, the gist of what I taught in California basically. The nakshatra? We finished Uttarabhadra? Yeah, I think so. We finished the nakshatra after my nakshatra, so that must be Uttarabhadra. So now we have to do Revati. This is a mantra for Pushan, as the lord of Revati nakshatra. Pushan. P-O-O-S-H-A-N. Pushan. It's basically a form of Surya, another form of Surya. Om Pusha Revatyanveti Pantham Pushtipati Pashupa Vajabastyo Imani Havya Prayata Jushana Sugair Noja Nairupayatam Yajnam Shudran Pashun Rakshatu Revatina Gavo no Ashwang Anvetu Pusha Annang Rakshanto Bahudha Virupam Vajang Sanutam Jajamanaya Yajnam. This is a mantra for Pushan or Pusha as the ruler of the Revati nakshatra. Next, which graha we are on? Shani is over. So we are on Rahu. Om Kayanas Chitra Abhuvaduti Sada Vrudhas Sakha Kayasa Chisthaya Vrata. This is the mantra, graha mantra for Rahu. And where are we on Parashara, BPHS? Before I forget, one announcement. Next week's class also will not be there, but after that we will probably have uninterrupted class for a while. Next Sunday is my son's Upanayam. Around 12:30 is the Muhurtam, and Guru will be exactly on Lagnam. So all of you are most welcome. Welcome to come for the Upanayam. We'll probably start the puja, I don't know when, but depending on when the priest says, maybe around 9 or 8 or that's when the pujas and the homas will start, and they will go on, and at 12:30 basically I will be teaching them the Gayatri Mantra. That is the Brahmopdesha time. So all of you are welcome to come bless him and then have lunch. So for that I will not be coming, and even Narayan will be there at the Upnayanam. Narayan, his parents, everybody will be there. So he will also not be able to teach. So next week's class is cancelled. But after that, the next Sunday, 27, we will have a class. So where are we as far as remedial measures are concerned? Which nakshatra? For me?
Actually, I have checked my husband.
For me?
He was born on my husband.
Yeah?
So, he was born on the fourth part of Krishna Chaturdashi.
Krishna Chaturdashi, okay.
So it says maternal uncle, there is a problem for
Yeah, Chaturdashi Matulam Jaiva. It says, yeah.
maternal uncle or any uncle?
It's basically maternal uncle. Matula
He
is
doesn't
maternal.
have any maternal uncle, so is it still good for us to...
Then don't worry about it. Maybe one reason he doesn't have any maternal uncle, as far as his chart is concerned, could be that he was born with this dosha. So then you don't really have to worry much about it. So we finished Chaturdashi, right? We finished Amavasya and Chaturdashi doshas in the last class. So I think we are on Bhadra and other Duryoga Santadhyaya. So Atha Bhadra Avama Duryoga Santadhyaya. Chapter 88 in Santanam's version. That's where we are on. Right? अथाहं संप्रवक्ष्यामि भद्रायामवमे तथा व्यतीपातादि दुर्योगे यमघण्टादिके च तत् यमघण्टादिके च यत् जन्माशुभफलं प्रोक्तं तस्य शान्तिविधिं द्विज प्राप्ते प्रसूति दुर्योगे शान्तिं कुर्याद् विचक्षणः. So what he is talking about here is now I am going to tell you भद्रायाम वमे तथा यतीपातादि दुर्योगे यमघण्टादिके च यत्. So he is talking about first of all he is talking about Bhadra. Exactly what Bhadra is we will find out when he defines it. But he is talking about Bhadra, birth in Bhadra, and Ayama Vama is basically when the Tithi is basically on a border towards the end of a Tithi. Yeah, Tithi Sandhi basically. Very close to the time when Tithi is about to change or has just changed. Vyatipatadi Duryoge means Vyatipata and other bad yogas. Vyatipata and other bad yogas. So there are, as you can see in the Panchanga, there is Tithi, Yoga, Vara, Nakshatra, Karna. There he is talking about the yoga, the sun moon yoga, Panchanga yoga. So that yoga, if it is Vyatipata and other bad yogas. Unfortunately, he doesn't clarify which ones. But most of the times you can just look at the name and you can get a gist. So Vyatipata is basically, Vyatipata means basically a big fall. So obviously it's not a good name. If you look at the yoga right now, for example, what is the yoga?
Shula.
The yoga is Shula. Is it a good yoga? What would you guess?
Shula is not.
It's not. It doesn't sound good. Shula is basically a weapon with which people are killed. So it doesn't look good. So in general, for many bad yogas, you can apply these verses, apply this adhyaya. But unfortunately, Parashara does not explicitly list what are the bad yogas. So you just have to go by the name. Then, Janma Phalam Proktam Tasya Santi Vidhim Dvija. He is saying what is that kind of Janma. Ashubha Phalam means inauspicious results because of that kind of Janma. Proktam means has been, is taught like this, is said like this. Tasya Santi Vidhim Dvija. And what is the procedure to do peace for it, to do remedy for it? I am going to tell you, O Brahmin. Prapte prasuti duryoge shantim kuryat vichakshana. And also, if the prasuti duryogam is not really any astrological combination, if there is something inauspicious about the birth, he is talking about that also. So basically, again, he doesn't really specify what exactly that is. What exactly is the inauspicious birth? For example, if the child is born with any physical deformities, that kind of things are normally thought to be covered by this, but it's open to interpretation. By the way, welcome back, and I could not reply to your message.
Okay.
That day, unfortunately, you should subscribe to SJC Boston list immediately. Yeah. Because when the class is cancelled, Seshu may or may not get a chance to update the web page that you checked. But if you are on that list, you will get the mail whenever the class is cancelled. And just so you know, next week's class is not there. My son's Upanayam is going on next Sunday, and you are most welcome to come for the Upanayam, bless him and have lunch. I can send directions to SJC Boston for those of you who want to come. So I'm sorry that he came one of the classes that we cancelled. Only he was here, nobody was here. And he left a message for me at home saying, I checked the webpage, it's not, nothing is there, what happened? So everybody, you and everybody, I hope is on SJC Boston list. We should make sure that everybody who comes physically to this class is on that list. So continuing, so he is basically talking about all these duryogas and what is the remedy to be done for these yogas. Daivagnai darshite vapi sulagne sudane gruhi pujanam devatanam cha grahanam jajanam tatha. So he is saying, Daivagnair darshite vapi, or after giving all these conditions like Jatipada Duryoga, Yamaghanta's time, that I did not mention. He also said Yamaghantadike Tadyat. So he is talking about the time of Yamaghanta, basically the Yamaghadiya. If somebody is born in Yamaghantaka's time, he is considering that also to be inauspicious along with the Jatipada Duryoga. So for all these, there is one remedial measure, that one particular procedure that he is going to talk about in the next few verses. Pardon me? It's kind of like Rahukalam, but I will not go into the computations. It's not really that important, but you can, in the software, if you go to Panchanga, you can find the time here. See, if you go to the daily Panchanga, there is a Rahu K, right? There is Rahukalam. Gulika K stands for Gulika Kalam, and then there is Yamaji. This is basically Yamaghantaka's time. These are the Yamaghadiyas, when Yamaghantaka is rising. Usually it's around 1.5 hours.
It's basically inauspicious, right?
It's an inauspicious time, yeah. Yamaghantaka, who is basically, literally that means the bell of Yama. So that Yamaghantaka is rising. So that time is not an auspicious time, especially for health, physical vitality, etc. purposes. Maybe not so for pujas, remedies, etc. Maybe for those it's not a big deal, Yamaghadiya. But for physical matters, basically for birth or for doing something important relating to your body, it's not such an auspicious time. So if during such a time, if somebody is born, then also you have to do this particular thing. And what else does he say? Daivagnair darshite vapi. Or if the astrologer sees. So exactly what Parashara means here is not clear, but what I infer is, he is talking about if the astrologer feels appropriate. Apart from all these conditions that I have listed, if astrologer sees something weak in the chart and if he feels appropriate, then also you can do all these. And then he is saying, Devagne Dashite Vapi Suragne Sudane Gruhi Pujanam Devatanam Cha Grahanam Yajanam Tatha. So Sulagne means in a good lagna, Sudine, on a good day, Gruhi, the householder, he should do this remedy. What should he do? Pujanam Devatanam Cha Grahanam Yajanam Tatha. He should do Pujanam Devatanam. He should do puja to Devatas, various deities, and also Grahanam Yajanam Tatha. And also Yajanam means Homam for Grahas. So he is suggesting Graha Homam, Navagraha Homam for all these weaknesses that I have mentioned until now. If you see, for example, for Krishna Chaturdasi and Amavasya, he suggested specific remedies. He suggested specific Devatas, specific kind of procedure. But here he seems to be in general suggesting just pray to gods and do Graha Homam. Shankarasya Abhishekam cha Ghrutadipam Shivalaye Ayurvruddhikaram Kuryad Ashvathasya Pradakshinam. So he is saying Shankarasya Abhishekam cha, which means do Abhishekam to Shiva. So Rudrabhishekam. He doesn't say whether with milk or honey or with all the Panchamritas, he doesn't say. So you can pick whatever you want. Maybe the easiest thing would be just milk Abhishekam. If you just want to do by yourself, you just take a small Shivalingam, you just pour milk while saying some mantra, some Shiva mantra. You can say Triambakam Yajamahe or some other Shiva mantra. Or just Namah Shivaya, keep saying it and pour milk on Shiva. That is a great remedy for actually many physical problems, many health problems. Just do Abhishekam to Shiva with milk every day. It just takes 5 minutes. You don't have to do any complicated mantras. Just Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. Just pour milk. At the end, pour some water so that the Shivalinga is washed. Just drink that milk. So that itself is a very good remedy. If you just, especially the thing is, the more complicated the remedy is, and the better it is done. If the priest has the spiritual caliber to really invoke upon gods, the remedies can work very fast. But the thing is, even if a normal person like you and me does a remedy, if it is a really complex remedy, it may work faster. But if it is a small remedy like just saying Om Namah Shivaya, still it will work, but it will take a long time to work basically. But if it doesn't have any risk, you just keep doing, maybe after a year or 2 years, suddenly it starts giving its effect. Because all the remedies that you do, first they have to remove a lot of karmas that may be obstructing your growth and your path in this particular life. So slowly all the karmas will be burnt away, they will be washed away, and then only you will start seeing the result. Until then, you may not really see much result. But once it starts really giving its result, it will be tremendous. That is why you just have to keep doing remedies. Shankarasya Abhishekam cha Ghruta Shivalaye. Neji Deepam, yes. A Deepam made of ghee. So basically take a small clay pot or something in which you can put oil or ghee. So in that, fill it with ghee, put one, that thing, what you say, one wick or vatti in Sanskritam and vattu in Telugu. So put the wick and then light fire, light the Deepam. So do it with ghee. He specifically says ghee and specifically says in Shivalaya. Go to a Shiva temple and then do this. So if you go to a Shiva temple every day, light a ghee lamp, it's a very good remedy for most of these duryogas. Ayurvruddhikaram kuryad ashvathasya, and he says Ayurvruddhikaram kuryad. Ayurvruddhikaram means it increases your longevity, it increases your ayush. Kuryad ashvathasya pradakshinam, and also you can do another thing which is ashvathasya pradakshinam. For the ashwatha tree, what is ashwatha tree?
Elephant.
What is ashwatha? I don't know the English name unfortunately. Does anybody know the English name of ashwatha? I know the Telugu name. Yeah, it's in Telugu, but maybe people. I unfortunately I don't know.
Ravi.
Yeah, it's Ravi in Telugu.
Then people.
People is the English word. Okay, then people tree. So do a pradakshinam to a people tree. That's basically what Parasa suggests. What if you don't have a people tree nearby? Go to a banyan tree. If you don't have it, go to an oak tree. You can find some alternative, but what he suggests is people tree. Havanam Vishnu mantrena shatam ashtottaram sudhihi brahmanan bhojaye satya tatah kalyanam apnuyat. And then he says Havanam Vishnu mantrena. With the Vishnu mantra, do homam. So what he is suggesting is Navagraha homam, Shiva's abhishekam, then Vishnu homa with Vishnu mantra, shatam ashtottaram sudhihi.
108 times.
So you do 108 times Vishnu mantra in the fire basically. So you do a Havanam with Vishnu mantra 108 times. Which Vishnu mantra? He doesn't say which Vishnu mantra. So you can just pick something because he didn't really specifically say. You can say that Vishnu Paramam, that one, or Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, whatever you want to do. But Veda mantras are particularly powerful for homas. So maybe you can do that Vishnu Paramam Padam, just do 108 times. Or if you have patience, you can do Narayan Suktam or Vishnu Suktam 108 times. Though that will take a long time, but you can do if you really want to. So,
Vriksham itself is Vishnu.
pardon me?
Ashwatha Vriksham is represented by Lord Vishnu.
Yes, Ashwatha Vriksham itself is basically a representation of Vishnu, Ashwatha Narayana. So that's a good point. So basically both are very similar. Doing Pradakshina to the Ashwatha tree and doing Vishnu Homam. Mantra, Homam with Vishnu Mantra. Both are basically similar. So if you do that, Kalyanam Apnuyat, you will obtain auspicious results. So what Parasara is saying is for specific things like Chaturdasi and Amavasya, he has given other remedies. But now he is talking about Here he is talking about in general things that are not classified by other classifications, because we have some more Mula, Bhukti, Sankranti, Grahana. Those chapters are yet to come. But things in general, weaknesses that are not covered by these, he is basically covering in this particular chapter. The next chapter is yes.
While we are covering the different chapters of
Yeah.
Time of birth.
Yeah.
So when a chart comes, are we supposed to check because these things are something that are not directly seen, like nakshatra or
Yeah.
Chaturdashi or something
Yeah.
directly. Like for example, seeing Yamaganta or doing this yoga.
Yeah.
But our attention may not strike to that directly.
Yeah.
So how critical are
Yes.
these things? And because there seem to be many.
Some of these are very critical, especially Sankranti, Amavasya and Chaturdashi and Grahana. These are really critical. Or even Abhukta Mula. Those are really critical. So you must really look for those specifically. Like I said, I had cases where there was Sankranti dosham in the chart and everything was stunted because of it. The person's whole life was miserable because of it. I saw several examples of that. And then once the upaharam was done, once the pariharam was done for this particular dosha, things improved a lot for those people. I have seen cases. So these are actually, they have an overriding effect on all other astrological factors. So you have to look for these. And these Ratipata, etc., I am not familiar with how much effect these remedies have on these bad yogas. But the thing is, I would suggest, because Parasara specifically mentions, you better look for these. If not other bad yogas like Shula, etc., at least look for Ratipata, which he specifically mentioned. You will be better off looking for these.
So these are, that means, applicable to cases where we have a birth data. For example, if we have a chart without a birth data, can we get some clue for these things from children's chart? Or
That's difficult.
very remote.
That's very difficult. So if you don't have the chart of the person, then the help that you can give is very limited as an astrologer. So you can't really look at children's charts and see. You can probably, if there is a big duryoga in father's chart and is stopping father from realizing his potential, let us say, he is just miserable because of a bad yoga, it may show up as some bad combination in child's chart. If that is affecting the child also, you will see some indication. But you won't see what is the duryoga, what is the shanti to be done, etc. So that's tough basically. And I just want to say one thing here. Daivagnayat darsite vapi sulagne sudine gruhi. There, Daivagnayat darsite vapi, that can be interpreted in two ways. One interpretation could be, when the astrologer tells you, then do it, or va means or at a good time basically. Sulagne sudine, on a good day, in a good rising sign, then do this. So it means either go to an astrologer, whatever he says, just accept it as a good time, then do it at that time, or you just find a good ascendant and good day and then do it on that day. That is one interpretation of Daivagnaya Darsite Vapi. Another interpretation could be, he gave all these bad conditions at the beginning and then he said, or if seen by astrologer. So basically you could say that if an astrologer sees some really terrible combination in a chart, for which there is no specific remedy anywhere, he could just suggest this particular remedy. So there are two interpretations of that particular phrase. So you can interpret either way. But the key is, he seems to suggest that the time when you do this remedy is also important. If the time is powerful, then remedy will work maximum. Otherwise, it will work only to a limited extent. That is basically the lesson. The next chapter is, yes.
One question. About this, in the olden days when I was kid, the Brahmana who does the puja and all, they used to come and eat and go.
Yeah.
Nowadays it's not happening.
Yeah.
So how much important? Like he has written Brahmana.
Brahmanan bhojayet saktya tadah kalyanam apnya. So
is
he
it complete
says
or incomplete if they don't eat?
it is incomplete.
Okay, now,
But if the
now-
Brahmin who comes to do the puja, if he doesn't eat, that's fine. If he has to run to do another puja, let him go, feed some other Brahmins. But you should always find some Brahmins. And by Brahmin, we don't necessarily mean somebody who was born as a Brahmin, in a Brahmin family. If somebody is actually engaged in Brahmin-like karma, sattvic, not necessarily sattvic, but basically relating to learning. Brahmana's purpose is to learn and to use the knowledge for the world. That is Brahmana's purpose. Kshatriya's purpose is to protect the world. And Vaishya's purpose is to give all the materials the world needs. and then Shudra's purpose is to serve and do all the mean chores. These are the purposes. So even if somebody is born as a Brahmin, if he is basically after power, if he wants to be powerful and if he is fighting for that power, if he is a big politician or something, he is a Kshatriya. Even if somebody is born as a Shudra, if he is learning, doesn't have to be Veda Mantra, some knowledge he is learning and then using that knowledge for the world, he is a Brahmin. So don't go by the last name, the caste that you see from the last name, but go by the nature of the person. So if you find somebody who is like a Brahmin, get that person and feed. So he says you should feed several Brahmins, then only you will get the full result. The next chapter is Atha Eka Nakshatra Jata Shantyadhyayam. So this is basically, if some people are born in the same nakshatra, then remedy for that. अथ यद्येक नक्षत्रे भ्रात्रोर्वा पितृपुत्रयोः प्रसूतिश्च तयोर्मृत्युरथ वैकस्य निश्चयः. So what is this is, now if in the same nakshatra two siblings or father and son are born, then tayoh mrityuh athva ekasya nischayah. So he says at least one of them may die because of it. So that is the actual word Parashara says. He says definitely one of them is going to die. But in practice there may be more modifications to this. It may not be just a nakshatra, one nakshatra. It may be same pada. There may be some other conditions that Parashara did not mention. So in reality you may see that father and son have the same nakshatra, but maybe there isn't, both of them are alive, maybe that is possible. But the thing is, because the sage says that there will be death, there will be some suffering because of it. It's not auspicious. So if the father and a child have the same nakshatra, or if a child is born in the nakshatra of one of the siblings, then you should be careful. It's basically not an auspicious combination. Yes.
So is it for any nakshatra?
Any nakshatra.
Wow.
It's called Eka Nakshatra Dosha.
Both my son and daughter have the same nakshatra.
Oh, but you don't have it.
No, I don't have it.
Okay, it's not good for them.
I think.
It's not good. You should, whenever the latter one is born, the second one,
Yeah.
it can bring bad results to either of them or even both. So you should do some shanti in that case. Ideally when they are born, ideally when the second sibling is born, you should do this shanti, but you can do now also.
This is the same one you suggested for Shiva.
No, it's going to come.
Okay.
This is a different chapter. So just be patient and listen.
Something useful. Every time when we run the class.
Yeah, somebody has something. Yeah.
The last time we talked about Amavasya, my chart came on Amavasya born.
Yeah. Actually, after we talked about the Amavasya Shanti in our class, a discussion came upon those Yahoo groups. Apparently somebody has Amavasya dosha and Sanjay ji advised him to do the dosha, or maybe he just did. He read Sanjay ji's book and did. And then there was a discussion. Agni Trikona ke, we translated as Agni Trikona, basically Agni's angle, Agneya direction, southeast. But for some reason, all these books translated as southwest. This Santanam's version has southwest, G.C. Sharma version says southwest, and apparently Sanjay ji wrote in his book, Remedial Measures, Vedic Remedies in Astrology. There also he talked about Amavasya Shanti, and apparently he also mentioned southwestern there. So because everybody says southwest, but in my class I have said southeast, there was a discussion on the Yahoo group saying which is right. Absolutely, actually the word is not Agni Trikonake, it is Vahni Trikonake. Again, Vahni means Agni. So in my mind there is absolutely no doubt. And I'm only guessing here, but my guess is one of these guys just made a typo. Instead of southeast they wrote southwest, and the other book just copied it. Because G.C. Sharma and Santanam's versions, there is a lot of copying. It's not exact. They basically were creatively inspired. I don't know who was inspired by who, but these two guys basically it's almost like they are worked by one person. They are not really, even though they are published by two different people, by two different publishers, they seem very similar. So one of them basically made the mistake, other one faithfully copied the mistake, and my feeling is probably Sanjay ji also just, when he was writing the remedies book, he was just referring to various sources. Probably he took one of these BPHs, one of these Brihad Parachar Hora Shastram, then he basically typed in his own words. That is my guess, probably. That is probably what happened, because there is absolutely no way Vahni Trikona can be interpreted as southwestern, the Niriti's direction. That's absolutely, it doesn't make sense. And also putting the Kalsha in Nairiti also doesn't make a lot of sense. Usually you put the Kalsha in Ishanya and Agneya. Those two directions are most popular.
Because Amavasya is dark, so they want to put in light in
that is what actually somebody said. Niriti is Rahu's direction, so Amavasya is owned by Rahu, so you are putting the Kalsha in Rahu's direction. So that was somebody's interpretation. So it made a lot of sense to that person. But the thing is, Amavasya being ruled by Rahu, it is basically our tradition's teaching. It's not given in any classics, to the best of my knowledge. And I mean, I'm not disputing those Tithi rulerships, but what I'm saying is, you should always distinguish between what is there in classics and what is there in tradition and what is coming from somebody's mind, intelligence, somebody's interpretation, somebody's inference. This particular thing, as far as I know, is from tradition. There is no clear mention in Parashara or Jaimini, one of the rishis. And when Parashara talks about Amavasya dosha, if you see, he talks about praying to the lords of Amavasya, and he talks about sun and moon there. He doesn't talk about Rahu or Ketu. He talks about sun and moon being the lords of Amavasya. So he says, put a sun and moon idol and then do this puja, if you remember what we did a few weeks back. So again, that Rahu owning, so Rahu's direction being the direction for Kalsha doesn't really hold water.
But the fact that Kalsha is treated for an auspicious purpose, is getting into the direction of Rahu or into the
direction of Rakshasi. Niriti is a demoness.
That doesn't make sense. Right?
Yeah, it doesn't make too much sense to me. That is demoness's direction. Right. And Kalsha is something in which you are invoking godliness. So if you put it in the ideal directions for Kalsha are, in most pujas, when you do Surya and Chandra, Surya in Agni, you put in Agneya direction and Ishanya direction. Those are the two directions for Kalsha. And also Varna's direction is good because Kalsha is basically Varna. So that is west. So these are the typical directions in which you put the Kalsha. And putting southwest doesn't make sense to me. In my feeling, it was basically a typo by somebody who was basically copied by several other people. That is why you have this whole body of knowledge that refers to southwest for Kalsha. It should be southeast for Amavasya Puja. So here, we'll answer your question. So what should you do? Tatra Shantim Pravakshyami Gargadi Munibhashitam Sudine Shubha Nakshatre Chandra Tara Balanvite. Then, in that case, the remedy I am going to tell now. Gargadi Munibhashitam, told by Garga and other great sages. Sudine Shubha Nakshatre, on a good day, in an auspicious nakshatra, Chandra Tara Balanvite. Chandra should have good Tarabala. So whatever nakshatra they were born on, the Tarabala from that nakshatra should be good. Like it should be Ekshema Tara, Sadhana Tara, or Sampat Tara. It should be some good Tara. Mitra Tara, okay? Don't pick Naidhana Tara or Vipat Tara or Prachak Tara. Pick a good Tara. So moon should have a good Tara. Nakshatra should also be an auspicious nakshatra. In other words, don't pick a nakshatra like Aslesha or something. Pick an auspicious nakshatra, Anuradha, Punarvasu, Pushyami, etc. So pick an auspicious nakshatra, and it should be in general a good day. Then okay. Rikta Vishtiva Varjecha Samaye Shantimacharet. So he is saying Rikta Vishti Vivarjye. So Vivarja means left by them. Rikta Vishti Vivarjya means when the time is left by Rikta and Vishti. So he is saying don't do it in Rikta and don't do it in Vishti. So those are the two things that he specifically mentioned, which is Vishti means Vishti Karana. So when the Karana is not Vishti, okay, so Vishti is a very inauspicious Karana.
You didn't give any remedy for Vishti Karana?
Pardon me? Oh, he didn't. We'll see. If he didn't give, then go back to the previous chapter. Use that particular, the Bhadra, etc. that chapter. So when you do this remedy, it should not be Vishti Karana, and Rikta, the Tithi should not be Rikta. I leave it to you to go back to my book and find out what Rikta Tithis are. There are different Jaya, Rikta, etc. There are different Tithis. So find out what Tithis are Riktas, okay? All of you should tell me the list. It is there in my book. So you should not do it on a Rikta Tithi. Rikta means basically empty. So you should not do it on those empty tithis. And also Vishtikarna. Satya Samaye Shanti Madhya. So in a time like that, then you should do the remedy. Okay. So no Rikta Tithi, no Vishtikarna, and moon should have good Tarabala, Nakshatra should be auspicious, and it should be a good day in general. Shane Rishana Digbhage Nakshatra Pratimam Shubham Tannakshatrokta Mantrena Pujayet Kalashopari. So he is saying, Shane Rishana Digbhage Nakshatra Pratimam Shubham Tannakshatrokta Mantrena Pujayet Kalashopari. From Shani. So where is Shani? Why does Shani come into picture? So he is saying, Shanehi Ishana Digbhaga means in the Ishanya Digbhaga from Shani. In the Ishanya from Shani, there Pujayet Kalashopari. There put a Kalasha. Upari means on that. Raktavastrena Sanchadya. No, yeah, I didn't read the next mantra. Let me just read. Tannakshatrokta Mantrena Pujayet Kalashopari. Raktavastrena Sanchadya Vastra Yugmena Vestayet. So he is saying, in the Ishanya, in the northeast from Saturn.
What is northeast from Saturn?
Yeah, northeast from Saturn.
What is that from Saturn?
Yeah, we will come to that, but I will literally translate. In the northeastern direction from Saturn, Nakshatra Pratimam Shubham. Take a nice auspicious idol of the nakshatra. Idol of the nakshatra. Raktavastrena Sanchadya Vastra Yugmena Vestayet. Sorry. And then, along with the nakshatra mantra of that nakshatra, do the puja of on the kalasha, and you should cover it with Raktavastra, with a red cloth, Vastra Yugmena Vestayet, and then wrap around it a pair of clothes. So let us step back. Now, first of all, he is assuming that there is Shani somewhere. He is assuming that there is Shani. And then in the Ishanya from Shani, you put this Kalasha. So the bottom line is, at least Saturn should be there, probably Navagrahas. Okay, so my take on this is, if you don't want all Navagrahas, just put Shani in the middle. So you are supposed to put a Kalasha for Shani, either Kalasha or idol or some coin, something for Shani. So Shani is basically the reference point for this puja. Why? Probably because we are talking about nakshatra, and Shani is the karka for nakshatra. Similarly, if you see Chaturdashi and Amavasya, those are tithis. Those are tithi based doshas. Who is the ruler of tithis? In general, the concept of tithi in the Panchanga elements is Jaladatva, water. So Venus. Nakshatras are Vayu Tattva, so Saturn rules them. Yogas are Akash Tattva, Jupiter rules them. Vara, weekday is Agni Tattva, so Mars rules them, right? So these are the Panchanga elements. They are basically 5 elements. Panchanga. So Tithi is Jala, Vara is Agni, Nakshatra is Vayu, Karana is Bhu, Yoga is Akasha. These are the 5. So you have the for each of them you have the Lord. For Agni it is Mars, for Jala it is Venus, for Akasha Jupiter, for Vayu Saturn, for Bhu Mercury. These are the 5 planets apart from the luminaries. These are the 5 planets who rule these 5 elements. So accordingly we have the Tithi, Vara, Yoga, etc. ruled by these planets. So for the concept of Tithi, Venus is the Karaka. And in the Kala Chakra, if you see, Venus rules the southeastern direction in the Kala Chakra, in the Dik Chakra. So that could be why. Pardon me?
Akasha is Jupiter, right?
Pardon me?
Akasha is ruled by Jupiter.
Akasha is ruled by Jupiter. So Yogas, the Panchanga element of Yoga is ruled by Jupiter.
And Prithvi by Mercury.
Prithvi by Mercury. So Karana by Mercury. The concept of Karana is ruled by Mercury. And Tithi is Jala, so Venus. Nakshatra is Vayu, so Saturn.
Nakshatra, Tithi, Karan, Yoga, and what is fifth one?
Vara, weekday. That is Mars. Okay, so maybe this is just a hypothesis. Maybe Venus is the important planet as far as Tithis are concerned. So for both the Tithi based remedies that we have seen, Amavasya and Krishna Chaturdashi, in Venus direction the Dik Chakra, that is where you are putting the Kalasha. So he is important. Anyway, coming back here. So if you come back here, we are talking about Shani. So my suggestion is, don't put just Shani, put all the grahas. Do graha puja. Okay, so sun in the middle, Venus in the east from him, in the northeast put the southeast put moon, in the south put Mars, in the southwest put Rahu, in the west put Saturn, in the northwest put Ketu, in the north put Jupiter, in the northeast put Mercury. Just like in the Satyanarayan Vratam. This is what I would suggest. In the middle, sun.
Should we be doing it in temple where they already have the Navagraha?
Yeah, you can do, but it's auspicious to do at home also. It doesn't take a lot of time. See, when I do Satyanarayan Vratam, it just takes 10 minutes to set up this. And you can also do this. There are shapes given. If you read the Satyanarayan Vrata procedure, you will find these shapes. So I will say the shapes also. For sun in the middle, it is Vatulakara Mandala. He likes to be on a Vatulakara Mandala. So you can make a circular shaped seat for him. You basically pour lot of grains. Ideally, you can pour wheat for sun. You can pour rice also for all planets. But if you want to use the correct dhanja, make a circular shape with wheat in the middle of the mantapa. Okay? On that put sun. Put sun in a small kalasha. Or if you don't have kalasha, you can just take some coin and put it there. Coin, khajura, dates, etc. Put it there. Some akshatas, some betel nuts. That's what we do for Satyanarayan Vratam. You can put a kalasha also for this puja. So in a small kalasha, again in kalasha you can put some water, put some sugandha dravyas like some, we call it saffron, some chandana, that is sandalwood, some ilachi powder, some coins, some akshatas, maybe a small couple of flowers. So you put all those in a kalasha. That is basically how you, the kind that you put in the kalasha, that's where God is going to come and reside during the time of the puja. So you can put in a small kalasha. You can put a small kalasha on a circle of wheat, a circular shape made with wheat. And in the eastern direction from it, you can make a pentagon shape, Panchakonakara Mandalam. In a pentagon shape, with the, I don't know what it's called, basically the white beans. These are basically beans. These are the seeds of beans, but very white in, full white in color. Some people also use black eyed beans. Those are also appropriate. But if you have one which is purely white, no black eyed beans, I don't know what they are called, the name, the English name, but you find them in stores, Indian stores here. So you put those white beans. So on them you put Venus in the pentagon shape. So you put a kalasha in that, again same materials inside. So that kalasha, in that kalasha you are going to invoke Venus. And in the southeast direction, you put moon in a Samachaturasya Mandala, which is a square shape.
That is southeast?
Southeast. In the southeast, moon. In the southeast, put a square shape with rice, moon like rice. So put rice, square shape, on that put a kalasha, that will be moon. And in the southern direction, put a triangle. In the southern direction, put a triangle made with tur dal, but not split. Not the yellow split tur dal, but basically the whole tur dal. That will be a little, I don't know what is the color. It is kind of light brown. Pardon me? It's not black. It's light brown basically. You can find whole tur dal. You can find in Indian stores. Actually, if you find Navagraha puja kit in some Indian stores, they sell all these together. So there, one of these is this thing.
The packets they sell.
Yeah, in small packets also they sell. So you can take the. Why are you laughing?
I got it for one of the puja.
I see.
Somewhere.
So you take a.
They made it in the small boxes like this.
Yeah.
It's like $8 or $9.
Yeah.
For small things like that.
I know. We just buy it because we do every time. And sometimes we do like 3 mantapas, 3 kalashas, 3 pithas, 4 pithas. Several people come and join us. They also sit, other couples, and do. So we use them heavily. So we just buy in bulk. So we have big boxes of each of these in our house. Anyway, so tur dal you make a triangular shape, Trikonakara Mandalam. So in a triangular shape, that is Mars. Mars. Tur dal and triangle, that is Mars.
The kalasha is common for all of them, right?
Kalasha is common for all of them. If you can't do kalasha, you just put a couple of coins just on the grains. That's it.
And what direction is Mars?
South. And then southwest, this is Niriti's direction. So this is Rahu. So in that direction, you say it's called Shurpakara Mandalam. I'm sorry to those who are listening to the audio, but it looks like this.
Trapezium.
It's basically a trapezium. In the top basically there is a, let's say, horizontal line. In the bottom there is another horizontal line, but which is smaller. And then you connect them with cross lines. So it looks like this. Okay, it's a trapezium. Pardon me? Inverted trapezium. Depends on what your concept of trapezium is. For somebody it may be actual trapezium, not inverted. For somebody it may be 90-degree rotated trapezium. It depends on how you imagine a trapezium. So it's a trapezium with the top side basically longer, the bottom side shorter, but they are symmetrical. If you draw a vertical line in between them, they are symmetrical with respect to that vertical line. Okay. So those who are listening to the audio, just imagine. So this is called Shurpakara Mandalam.
Rahu like till, right?
Pardon me?
Rahu like till.
No. Saturn likes till. Rahu likes Mashadhanja, which is basically urad dal. You know but the thing is, instead of using the white urad dal where the peel has been removed, if you can get it with the peel, which is black in color, it's basically black gram dal they call it, or urad dal. So if you take whole black gram dal, basically inside is white and outside is black cover, very small. They are the size of moong dal, same size as moong dal almost. So if you take that dal, those lentils, black lentils, and then small black lentils, and make a shape, trapezium shape, and put Rahu in it, and then going to the west, that is basically Dhanurakar Mandalam or Chapakar Mandalam. It's basically, the shape is an arc. Some people make a nice bow like this, basically with lot of curves, but in my opinion, all these are simple geometric shapes. So this is basically just an arc.
Downward arc, right?
Yeah, downward arc.
For
For Saturn. And this is with tila, with black sesame seeds. Sometimes you can get the white sesame seeds, like they use in Dunkin' Donuts here, in bagels they put that white sesame seeds, where again the skin has been peeled off. Again, that is not so good. For Saturn, you are better off using actual black till.
in what direction?
This is west. I am going clockwise, okay. I started in the east, I am going clockwise now. So we are on the west. Okay. The next direction is, and also when I say east, your puja should be done facing east, and whatever is basically at the furthest point, that is the east. So if this is my mantapa, if this is my pitha, this is where I started. So here Venus was moon, here Mars, here Rahu, here I am now with Saturn. Now we will come here, northwestern direction. So in the northwestern direction it is Ketu, and the mandala is Dhwajakar mandala, that is basically the shape of a flag. So even though nowadays flags are made like rectangles, the original shape for flags was like this. It's basically a rectangle, but in the right corner you cut out a triangle. So make a rectangle, okay, make a rectangle which is thin and long, and in that rectangle, in the right hand corner, just cut out a small triangle. Okay, so it will look like this. It's basically a rectangle, but some part cut out like this. Okay, so that is basically the shape of a flag. This is another basic geometric shape. So this is, and the dhanya for Ketu is, in Telugu we call it volavalu. In English, I think, in Indian English, I don't know if it's American English, it's called horse gram dal. Horse gram dal. It's basically very, very heating. If you cook it and eat it, it's very, very heating. I don't know if there is, what is it called in Hindi, anybody knows? Horse gram dal or volavalu in Telugu? Horse gram dal.
How does it look?
Black.
It looks actually dark brown, reddish, little bit of red, but basically dark brown. I can show it to you if you come to my house, but anyway. So that's basically for Ketu. And then in the northern direction is Jupiter, Dirgha Chaturasrakara Mandala. So that's basically a rectangular shape. And this is Chanaka Dhanya. Basically, in Telugu we call it Chanaga, Hindi is Chana. So Chanaka Dhanya. So you use Chana, this is basically in English approximately garbanzo beans or What else are they called? There is another name. Chickpeas. Chickpeas basically, yeah. So with those are used for Jupiter. And finally the northeast corner, that is, pardon me, rectangle. Dirghachatursra. And the northeastern corner is Mercury, Budha. And he likes moong dal. Okay? Mudga dhanya. Mudga is moong in Hindi. In Telugu it is pesalu, pesarapappu. So again, you don't use the split moong dal, which is yellow, light yellow in color. You use the whole moong dal so that it has the green, dark green peel, dark green skin. So put that, and the shape is Banakar Mandala. Some people use different nice shaped banas, but in my view it is basically a, parallelogram. It looks like this, a rhombus basically, like this. The basic arrow, the basic shape of a bana, the head of the bana, head of an arrow that you use. So it's basically like this, like a diamond kind of. So
Why these shapes are given to different planets? Is there anything?
there may be. Unfortunately, I don't know I don't have any insight that I can share with you. But there must be some meanings behind all these shapes that are given to various planets. There must be.
The shapes you make like 3-4 inches size roughly.
Pardon me?
The shapes, the
Yeah.
size of these shapes
Yeah.
would be about 3 to 4 inches in the.
There's no limit. If you are doing a big pitham, you can make this kind of shape, and then you can walk around and do puja. It's like you are organizing a mass. Let us say, suppose I were organizing a mass Satyanarayan Vratam in Boston, where let's say 100 people would come and do. I would probably put a big pitham, huge idol, and then so that everybody can see from distance. If I am doing it at my home, the bana is basically this side, rectangle is this side, a couple of inches.
Reachable by hand.
Yeah, reachable by hand without getting up. So it all depends. There are no limits on this. So like this, you prepare the pitha. Basically, you on an elevated platform, you put some cloth, a nice cloth, preferably a silk cloth, but not necessary. And on that cloth, in the middle and the 8 surrounding directions, 8 corners, you basically put these shapes, and on them you put the kalashas, respective kalashas. And then for the kalashas also, for a kalasha ideally you are supposed to use 2 cloths. There will be a kalasha. Kalasha basically means any container, usually a vessel. You can also put a glass. Somebody asks, I am in Europe, I don't have kalasha, what can I do for Shanti? You just a glass, a steel glass or some glass, and that you can put you can put a coconut. If you don't get a coconut, put an apple, put a peach, doesn't really matter. Some fruit, ideally is coconut. If you don't have it, use a peach, use a pear, use an apple. Something that's round, that can stand on the container that you have. So container, fill it with water and the other materials I have mentioned, put a coconut or fruit on top of it. On top of it, usually we put a cloth again. We just wrap a cloth around it. And also around the kalasha also you can wrap a cloth. So ideally it's basically 2 clothes. Symbolic of one shirt and pant that you wear, for example. One adhovastra, one urdhavastra. Okay, so put 2 clothes, and if you are creative, you can use the color of the planet. For Jupiter you can use yellow color, for Mars you can use red color, for Sun you can use red color, for Moon you can use white color, Venus you can use white color, Mercury you can use green color, for Rahu you can use blue color, for Saturn you can use black color, for Ketu you can use mixed color. All the different colors, mixed, multiple colors. So this way you can arrange the kalashas, and then you can do the graha mantras for all the grahas. Om a satyena, that one. Apya ayas, for that one. So for all the grahas you do the mantras, you do avahana, you invite the gods to come there in each kalasha separately, one after the other. And when you are done, then you can start this, whatever Parashara teaches here. So the fact that he says in the Ishanya from Shani means he is expecting Shani to be there. So he is expecting that you have already invoked the grahas. Now Shaner Ishana Digbhage, in the northeast from Shani, which basically means
From northeast.
Shani was in the west. If you remember in the picture that we had, Shani was in the west. So you basically go northeast from there. So it can be somewhere between Sun and Jupiter, right? If you do Satyanarayan Vratam also, that is basically where you will be putting the Satyanarayana. So basically around that place. So in between Sun and Jupiter, if you want, it can be actually in between Sun, Jupiter, Ketu and Saturn. You can put it in the center of that particular square also if you want, either way. So somewhere in the northeast from Saturn, Nakshatra Pratimam Shubham, Tan Nakshatrokta Mantrena Pujayet Kalashopari. So you put a kalasha, okay? You put a small kalasha. In the kalasha he is saying put a nice Nakshatra Pratima. So in the kalasha, instead of a coin, you can even put idols of gods. So you can put a Nakshatra Pratima. Or what some people do is, you can put a kalasha. In the kalasha you can put some coins to symbolize the devata that you are praying, and put water, etc. Put a coconut and cover the kalasha. In front of the kalasha, you can put the idol. Okay. For example, when you do Satyanarayana Vratam, you invoke Satyanarayana in the kalasha, and also you put in outside the kalasha you put an idol. So you can do that way. And for them, what kind of shape should be used for asana, what dhanya should be used is not given anywhere. So what you do is you just make a circular shape with rice. Okay, just put rice. For this final kalasha, Nakshatra Devata. So put a circular shape rice area. On that put the nakshatra, and in front of the nakshatra put an idol. Just get an idol made for the Nakshatra Devata. If the nakshatra, for example, is Shravana, you are lucky because it's just Vishnu. You can get a Vishnu idol. If it is, let us say, Ardra, it is Rudra. Again you are lucky. Rudra also you can just use Shiva. But if it is Pushan or Vishwadeva, you are in trouble. Then you have to. Pardon me? Indra, I believe. Yeah. Indra also you may be able to get something. If you don't get, just get some normal idol of a god with two hands and then use that. And in the worst case, if you don't have any idol whatsoever, just use a coin. That is good enough. So, Tannakshatrokta Mantrena. So, when you invoke the god in that kalasha and in that idol that you are using, you have to use the mantra of that nakshatra. We have done all the nakshatra mantras. We are almost done. We just have to do Ashwini Bharani and then we are done. Right? We've been doing for the last 26 classes. So all those will be useful basically. You can do those mantras. Those are the actual mantras that you are supposed to recite. And you can recite many times, not just one time. You can do 108 times. You can do, depending on your ability, you can do 21 times. So you should, with that mantra, you should do puja to that idol and the kalasha. Rakta vastrena sanchaja vastrayugmena vyashtaye. So you are supposed to use a red color cloth. Irrespective of who the devata is, use a red color cloth. Swaswasakokta margena kuryad agnimukham tatha punasthenaiva mantrena hunedashtottaram satam. Depending on your own sakha of the Veda, whatever procedure has been said in your own sakha, with that mantra, with that procedure, Agnimukham Kuryat, that means you should do Agnimukham, that means you should do a homam. So after doing all this, after invoking the kalasha, in front put a homagundam, and in the homagundam you start the Agni, you do a homa based on whatever procedures you have been taught in your sakha. Okay. So he is not specific that only this way you should do. Any way you can do Yajurveda, you can do Krishna Yajurveda, you can do Rigveda, whatever style that you are comfortable with, do in that style.
And the homa is for which deity?
Yes, that is said in the next line. Punasthenaiva mantrena huned ashtottaram satam. So 108 times with the same mantra, do Havana. That means the nakshatra mantra. So whatever mantra that I have said, these mantras, for example, for Poshan we did today. So if somebody is born in Revati, sharing the nakshatra with a sibling or father, you would be doing that mantra that I did today 108 times in the fire. You will be making offerings into the fire, tila and other. If he doesn't mention the materials, you use the materials he already mentioned. So tila and those things you can use. So you just keep offering 208 times. At the end of the mantra, you just say swaha. So read the whole nakshatra suktam, nakshatra mantra for that nakshatra, swaha, swaha, you keep putting. When you are done, the last time, when you are doing for the 108th time, when you are going to finish, instead of swaha, you say vaushad, and then finish, make the final offering. And at the end, you can offer purnahuti, all those things are standard basically. In the beginning, punyaha vachanam, all those things. In the end, making the purnahuti, and doing all the balis to the bhutas at the end of the homam, and doing some prayashchittas, offering some ghee to the Prajapati, Indra, Surya, Soma, so that you are forgiven for any mistakes that you have done. All those procedures, beginning and ending procedures, based on however you are taught by your gurus regarding homa procedure, you just do those. But the main crux of any homa, beginning and ending are very similar. But the crux is when you are actually offering various offerings to the deity with a mantra. That is the crux. And there you use this particular nakshatra mantra. That is the difference. Pratyekam samidannajyaihi. Okay, pratyekam, especially samidannajyaihi. Samit anna ajyaihi. Pratyekam samidannajyaihi prayaschittantamevahi. Abhishekam tatah kuryad acharyascha dvayorapi. Okay, pratyekam samidannajyaihi means especially with samit. What is samit? Samit basically there are two interpretations. One is wood, but a better interpretation of samidha is the
Clay.
Pardon me?
Samidha.
Yeah, what are those?
Twigs.
Yeah, the twigs and also the dry grass, basically the dalbhas. So it's basically those. So you keep putting the dry wood and anna. What is anna? Rice. So you also offer rice. And when usually we don't offer plain rice into the plain rice to gods. Even we don't eat plain rice. We give it only as bali. When you do bhota bali, you do the plain rice. So you instead you can make, for example, milk rice. Yeah, paisam, something like that. Milk and good rice. So that could be meant by annam. So you make paisam. You keep offering paisam. You keep offering wood and ajja. What is ajja? Ghee. So the main things are paisam and ghee. Those are the offerings to be made here. Okay. Pratyekam samidannajyaihi prayaschittantamevahi.
And is there anything when you use this samidhalu, is there anything you will of any particular type or just get from backyard?
Yeah, you can get from backyard or you can get from Home Depot. Or the equivalent in whatever country you are living. You can get it.
Particular pieces you use.
Yeah, there may be special trees used for special planets. I think in one of the earlier chapters he talked about it. We did not go there to do that chapter, but in the Grahacharti I think he mentioned which samidha should be used, which wood should be used for which planet. So there may be some significance, but for now just ignore, use whatever samidhas that you have access to.
The nakshatra mantra for Jyeshtha, is it in your book also? Or
It's not in my book, but if you listen to one of the old classes, it should be there. It was there in one of the classes. So
10 classes before this class.
yeah, roughly 10 classes before. So download and then you can find it. If you can't find it, see, mostly you won't be doing it yourself. You will be getting a priest to do it. The priest hopefully knows.
okay, yes.
Even if he doesn't know, he can just get a book and yeah. Even if he doesn't know, if he can get a book and he can find out. It will be there in the book.
Do it in our house, right? Then
Yeah, you can do it in your house.
But that time we cannot be.
Yeah. Indro Jyeshthamanu Nakshatrameti. That is the mantra. Indro Jyeshthamanu Nakshatrameti. That mantra.
Go to class 74. Class 74.
Thank you very much.
oh, okay. Thank you.
So class 74,
Yeah.
the mantra should start as Indro Jyeshthamanu Nakshatrameti. That is how it starts. Especially, you can do there are other mantras also. You can just say Om Indraya Namah, Jyeshtha Nakshatra Pataya Namah, something like that. You can come up with mantras. There are short mantras given in Vedic Remedies in Astrology by Sanjay ji. Very simple one-line mantras. Those are also good, but Veda mantras have a power of their own. Especially when they are read with the swara, the intonation ups and downs. There is nothing that compares to Veda mantras. And particularly if you get the right priest who has the spiritual caliber, who has done some sadhana himself earlier, if he does Veda mantras with the right swara, you will get the result of whatever puja that you are doing. So he is saying, so at the end, do all these materials, samidha, rice, cooked sweet rice, and then ghee, and then at the end do the prayashchittam. Prayashchittantam evahi. So even when you do the prayashchitta homam, at the end you do prayashchittam. You say, for all the mistakes I have done, please forgive me. And then you make offerings to Prajapati, Agni, Indra, etc. There also, until the end of Prayaschitta, you use these. So you can use Anna and ghee for those also, for Prayaschitta also. And then he says, Abhishekam tatah kuryad acharyascha dvayorapi. Then he says, Abhishekam means pouring water, approximately. Yeah, that's not a very nice translation, but there is no better translation to English. You just pour water. Abhishekam kuryat. Pour water. Who should do it? Acharyascha. The Acharya who came to do the puja, he should do the Abhishekam. Ideally. If he is in a hurry and if he has to leave, then somebody else, some nice Brahmin, let him do it. Acharyascha dvayorapi, for both of them. So the two people who were born with the same nakshatra, who basically rang the alarm, because of whom you are doing this puja, they should be made to sit down in a nice place, probably facing east or northeast or north, preferably east. So let them sit down facing east, and then the Acharya will come and he will pour the water from the kalasha into the, because when the mantras were being chanted to the homa, when the homa is being done in the Agni, gods will come basically. There will be some energy that you can detect, and during that time when the God's presence is there, the mantras that you are doing, they basically become charged, and the charge is basically captured in various materials which are around. Even people can capture a little bit of it, but water is very good channel for capturing all the energy. So there will be some energy which will be resident in the water, and you are using that water to do abhishekam. So some energy will go to the person. That is basically the idea. So abhishekam tatah kuryad acharyascha dvayorapi. For both of them do abhishekam. ऋत्विभ्यो दक्षिणां दद्याद् आचार्याय विशेषतः ब्राह्मणान् भोजयेद् भक्त्या वित्तसाक्ष्य विवर्जितः. So ऋत्विभ्यो, the ones who know the Vedas, who did these mantras, who chanted the mantras along with the main acharya, main priest, so for them give some dakshina, give some money. And also acharyaya visheshatah, particularly to the priest who has done the remedy. So to the priest mainly, and also to the other Ritviks who have come and chanted the mantras for you, chanted the nakshatra mantra for you. So to all those, you should give dakshina. Dakshina means a voluntary donation. If the priest says, okay, my fee, hourly rate is $100, it will take 2 hours, so $200, well, unfortunately this is Kali Yuga, so that is their dakshina. But ideally, a good priest, he should not tell you, this is what I charge. He will just come and do the puja, he will go away. Even if you don't give anything, he won't even realize it, he will just go away. If you get that kind of priest, excellent. Then your puja is really, it will really give the result. So ideally, priest should be like that, and you should give voluntarily whatever you can afford. You should not think, okay, he spent this much time, so I can give this much. Like that, you should not calculate. Whatever you can afford, based on how happy you are and how much you can afford, you just give that amount happily, thinking it's not mine. And the moment you give anything to anybody as dakshina, you should not think it's mine. That's why they make you say, when you namama, 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 not mine, not mine, not mine, 3 times you say and give it. So from that moment onwards, you should not have any relation to it. You should not even say, I gave him $100 or I gave him $1,000. You should not think like that. You did not give. It's over. It's no longer yours. You don't even think about it. You just give and forget. So the person who is doing the homam and the person who is getting the homam should be like that ideally. And then Brahmanan bhojayet bhaktya. With devotion, feed Brahmins. And again by Brahmins I mean learned people. So with devotion, bhaktya is the important word here. You should feed them with devotion. Vittasaksha vivarjita. What does it mean? Money. What is saksha? Saksha is the nature of a satha. Basically, no stubbornness or no greediness relating to money. Don't think about money basically. Don't be greedy about money. Basically, whatever you can afford. And you should also not be stubborn. Okay, this is a big puja, so I must give them $1,000. Even though I have only $500 in my bank balance, I should use my credit card and somehow draw $1,000 and give them. It should not be like that. It should not be either extreme. You should not go beyond your means. At the same time, if you can afford, suppose you are a millionaire, suppose you have $500 million. If you just give $50, it doesn't make sense. You can afford. Give $1,000, give $10,000. It doesn't matter how much he spent, how much time he spent. What matters is how much you can afford. And if you are like that, if you find a right priest and if you give what you can afford, you will not actually lose money. You will get more money because of it. It should be like that. So you should neither stretch your purse, at the same time you should not be too greedy. You should give what you can afford happily. So that is the Shanti for
But
Yaka
just
Nakshatra.
a comment on that. In a practical sense, in the Kali Yuga right now,
Yeah.
whether you see in and around Boston here or in India, anywhere else,
Yeah.
it goes with money and how much time they spend, and it's all kind of a commercial attitude.
Yeah.
So
That's why gods also become commercial and they will only calculate and give you 1%, 2% results.
So my question is, in that case, is the best option for the person to learn it himself for whatever reason and do?
I would suggest that. Lucky are those who really have access to really good priests, who are good people, basically who have all these values that I am talking about embedded within themselves, not just as a show off. Some people show off, but internally he is thinking, but I hope he doesn't just give $100. This guy is a rich man. I hope he gives $1,000. He will be thinking like that in the mind, but he may say, whatever you can, I don't mind. Like that they may be talking. So you have all the kinds of people who are very money minded. They just say, you put $500, then only I am coming. Otherwise I will go to that person's house. Like that there are some people. Some people who talk nicely, but internally they are not so nice. Some people who really don't give a damn about money. Excuse my language.
Yeah, first one is better than the second one.
Probably.
Yeah.
Let's not go there. The bottom line is, if you get a priest who doesn't really care about money, who just enjoys doing his pujas, for him Devata is all that matters. He considers this to be his not job but his work, his passion in life, his karma. A karma yogi. If you have a true karma yogi, such a person is good for doing your homa karma or all other pujas. If you get such a person, you are very lucky. You are extremely lucky. Such people are rare to find in Kali Yuga, and will become rarer and rarer as Kali becomes Ghor Kali, as time progresses further. So if you can find such a person, excellent. Stick to those people. Even if that person lives 1,000 miles away from you, you can basically schedule your pujas according to your proximity to that person. When you go there or when the person comes, you can plan. If you have a priest like that. If you don't have a priest like that, you better learn yourself and do it. It's not really, most of these procedures that I am talking about here, they are not really that complicated. So you can actually learn and do them yourself. And I myself am not an expert, but in the last 1 year I have been doing several homas and I am getting into these agamas, etc. So I know a little bit. So if any of you want to do any homam, etc. yourself and you want some help, I can help you. I can tell you some procedures and I can tell you what really matters, and I can help you. And as a matter of fact, if any of you are really interested in doing homam, actually doing a Ganapati homam by yourself is a very good starting point. If any of you want to learn Ganapati homam, I'll be very happy to teach you. It will be very auspicious. Any Agni karma that you do in your house, anything to do with fire, any homam of any devata, if you do on a regular basis, every month or every week or every day like that, if you do, it will be very auspicious for you. The sadhana that you do, that basically burns the internal fire. If you just do meditation, let's say you do 1,000 times Gayatri mantra every day, or you do 1,000 times Mrityunjay mantra, if you do some mantra like that, that basically burns the internal fire. That is good for internal results. But if you want to also benefit the society, if you want to do something for the world, then all these external fire related activities are very auspicious. So if any of you are interested, I can teach you. But again, if you have access to a good priest, you should definitely use that priest. So with that, I will end the discussion on Parasara for today. Any questions?
We can do Ganapati Home ourselves then?
You can do, anybody can do.
Oh, okay. You don't have to get a priest or something.
No, in my view, you don't have to. You don't have to get a priest. You can do it. Actually, you can do any homa by yourself. It's not really rocket science. You just have to know there are some beginning procedures, some ending procedures, and all you need in between is some mantra that you want to offer to the god and some food you want to offer to the god. As long as you know what dravyas are acceptable, what mantras are acceptable, you can do a homa. Yes.
Expecting things to be like that means we should be also in that same position.
Yeah. So if you yourself do, basically the thing is all other material considerations are removed, but the thing is if you don't have devotion, if you are looking at okay, 1 more hour, oh my god, only 10 minutes, so much left, if you are thinking like that, it's no point. If you can really have the devotion and concentration and just focus on the mantra, not worrying about other things. If you are doing the homam and let's say you call all your friends and you are thinking about whether they are getting bored or whether they are finding interesting, or if you are thinking about how they are feeling, if my thoughts are going somewhere else, the purpose is not served. You should just focus on what you are doing. If you can really get into that state, it's excellent. And the thing is, if you keep doing, you will actually get into the state.
Abhyasa yoga yuktena.
Yeah, exactly. As you practice, everything will become perfect. Unfortunately, the thing with some priests are excellent, but the thing with some priests is they do it so often, they do it so regularly that it's just like a job for them. They don't really enjoy it. They don't really feel what they are doing. Unfortunately, some priests. So instead of them, if you learn yourself and do it, will be much better. Okay. So what I will do now is, what we will do today is, for the rest of the another 40 minutes, what we will do is, we will do what I did last Sunday in California, in Sunnyvale, and from the next class onwards, we will go back to doing examples. So first half, Parasara interpretation, second half of the class, we will do practical examples that you guys bring, like in the last few classes. What I taught is Tithi Pravesha, and like I told you, you guys all know much more than what I taught there. They were all bunch of beginners. So I just taught the basics of Tithi Pravesh, just a few examples, and you guys definitely know more. So it's not really a big deal. But the only additional factor that I have covered is, actually to have the presentation, actually doesn't matter. That you can use the Tithi Pravesh along with mundane charts. And when I say mundane charts, one example is charts of countries. You can take India's independence chart, or US independence chart, or the chart when Iran was formed, or the chart when Iraq was formed, the chart when Israel was formed, and use Tithi Pravesh. And if you use dashas with those charts, the dasha is not reliable because, like I said earlier, 120 years is the paramash for human beings. For birds or for fish it is different. But what about nations? For birds, fish, etc., Parasara, Vrahmihira, etc. have given some direction. So you know how to compress. But for countries, what is the paramash? Is it 120 years? Is it 360 years? Is it 1000 years? We don't really know. So using the 120 year based dasha without any expansion or compression may or may not be logical. Even though people do it, people swear that, oh, Vimshottari works well in India's case. The thing is, astrology is such a subject that there is definitely something that works, but also most people who are into astrology are very intuitive kind of people. They just see things. If you show them a cloud, they see a temple in the cloud, or they see a tree in the cloud. Because if you are looking at a cloud, yatha bhavam basically, however you feel, you will see that. So unfortunately, there is that aspect to astrology. People who are into astrology are intuitive, they see things. That is why in this class I keep emphasizing on objective things that you can actually verify. If 10 people do it, they should all get the same result, and that should be closer to what happened. That is when astrology, you can call it a science, and unfortunately it's not yet a science. It's a curious mixture of science and art. So stepping back, that technique of compressing dashas is questionable. Technically it's not on solid grounds. I mean, using the 120 year dasha, Vimshottari dasha. But if you use Tithi Pravesh, every year you make a new chart based on the Tithi Pravesh and see how the next year is going to be, that is reliable. That is actually more logical. So we have done that for India, Pakistan, etc. in the past. So that is one aspect. But when I say Tithi Pravesh for mundane purposes, that is not all. You can use it with muhurtas also. When you join a job, or when you get married, or when you start learning astrology, when something important happens, you can make a muhurta. And then in the muhurta, you can, for the muhurta, after 1 year, after 2 years, after 3 years, you can make the Tithi Pravesh chart and to see what kind of results are coming during that year as a result of this muhurta. As a result of, basically when you start something at a muhurta, a new entity is born. Suppose if you start working at a company at a muhurta, at that time your tenure at that company has started. It's an entity by itself. It has a life of its own. It has a soul of its own. It has a mind of its own. So the chart will show that entity, and you can make Tithi Pravesh for that entity. Similarly, when you get married, the marriage between this man and this woman, that entity is born at the time of the muhurta of the marriage. So again, you can use that to see how the marriage will go. During which year they will fight more, during which year they will have more love, during which year maybe they will get children, during which year maybe they will do lot of dharma, lot of homas, lot of good activities, during which year they will suffer a lot, there will be financial troubles. So all these, as far as the impact of the marriage muhurta is concerned, you can see from that. So important events like childbirth, or if you join a job, big promotions or big drawbacks in the career, or even leaving the job, all those should be visible to some extent. My only advice is don't go by this fact alone. Basically, use the chart of the person also. This is not a determining factor, but this is one of the contributing factors, though not a determining factor.
Because there obviously has to be a link with the person's chart.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
10 people may get maybe joining the job on the same day at the same time.
Yeah.
So it is not the same fate for 10 people.
Exactly. So there must be some link with the actual person's chart also. There must be some link, but there will be some indications. If 10 people joined on the same day, if one of them left on a particular day, the other one may not leave, but he may go through a lot of suffering during that time. He may be feeling very unhappy. So there may be some similarities. One of them may be promoted at a particular time, but another one maybe he did not get promoted, but maybe his work was appreciated more. So there will be some patterns. So we are basically interested in only that pattern. And the thing is, as far as the exact time of the event is concerned, we don't have a definition of the muhurta. What is the definition of the time when you join the job? We have discussed this earlier. We don't really have clear-cut definitions. So you know only plus minus 10 minutes. You don't know exactly the time. You never do. So my advice is don't use all the divisional charts. They may or may not be reliable. Just stick to the Rashi chart. Just draw some basic conclusions. And if you see something interesting, then you can go back to the natal chart and confirm it there. So this is basically the only additional point that I taught in the class. The only point that I haven't taught here that I taught there.
So when you get an offer letter, then you sign for offer letter, that is joining a job, or suppose even in the muhurtas, also when they decide the muhurta, is it like the event should actually happen, or even the thought process.
Okay, what do you think? What is your take on it?
Should in the Rashi means it physically should happen. We are talking about Rashi chart.
Yeah.
It should physically happen. Means person should step into the building.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
When I just cover part of this earlier, like things like either it is stepping into the building, or it is HR conducting a introduction or some kind of thing.
Yes.
Or you actually start after all that when you actually get into the project, when you start work on the project.
See, the thing is, there are various stages in everything. There are various steps. So each step basically contributes to how smoothly things will go to the next step. But the final step, when your tenure in a particular company started, what is the final step? What really started it? When is it really born? Maybe it was conceived earlier, but when is it born?
When you log into this very first step.
Yeah, when you really start doing the work at that company. So again, what exactly that means, I leave it to you. You define. My definition is when you actually start doing some work. When the HR starts giving you a tour as an employee of the company, maybe that's when your work started. So, but the thing is, when you sign the agreement, you talked about signing the agreement, right? Signing the offer letter and sending it back. That is also very important. In my view, that's not joining the job, but it is also important. When you go for interview, to the company for the first time. That is also important. All these will have some impact on how well this particular job goes. But the main thing is actually joining the job. So for any muhurta, there are various stages. For example, suppose you buy a new house. The time when you go to see that particular house, the first time you see that house, that is important. And then when you close the house, the time when you close and when you actually become the owner, that is important. And finally, when you start living there, you go there and do Graha Pravesh. That is the most important. But all these other stages, they are all contributing. So for any muhurta, usually there are several contributing stages. So at each stage you can look at muhurta. And if that muhurta is good, it will basically make sure that things go smoothly until the next stage. For example, people like my father, old people, they put muhurta for everything. Whatever they do, they try to select a very good time. For example, when I got married, not only did he select a muhurta for my marriage, but even for the engagement, obviously he selected a good muhurta. But that's not all. To show my photo to my wife, I was in US and my wife was in India. To show my photo to my wife, he selected a muhurta, my father. So he gave the photo to my wife's parents and said, show this photo on so and so date at so and so time. Then only, don't show it any other time. Because the first time she sees my photo, according to him, that will have an impact on how our relationship will go in future. Not only how smoothly the marriage will be arranged and marriage will happen, but even later it will have some contributing impact. So my wife was at a party in Hyderabad at that time at a relative's house. It was all packed with people, and so because there were so many people and my wife's mother did not want to make a scene of this. Oh yeah, we are looking for her, looking matches for her, see the photo. She didn't want to make a scene in front of all the relatives. So she took her into the bathroom at that time, closed the door and then showed the photo at the hour, minute and second. Okay, now see the photo. So like that, old people will see muhurta for every stage. So there are many stages. So if you are going to buy a house, you will see a muhurta when you actually first time go to see the house. You may or may not buy the house. You are generally seeing houses, but you will see a muhurta for seeing each house. You will go see that house at a good muhurta, and then when you decide to buy it, you basically find a good muhurta to talk about that, to give you a word, and then you find a good muhurta to actually close it, and then you find a good muhurta to do Graha Pravesh. So you find good muhurta for everything, then you can't go wrong. For example, I have an example that I mentioned in California also. One of my friends who lives here in Boston area, they have a lot of confidence in me because I gave a lot of good predictions to them in the past. So they have a lot of confidence in my astrology. So he asked me, they wanted to sell their house and move into an apartment, live there for a few months and then go back to India finally. That is their plan. They made up their mind. So they wanted to put their home on sale. And these days real estate has cooled down a little bit, and especially in the neighborhood that they live in that development, there are 18 houses on sale for several months. They are not selling. So these guys wanted to basically add one more house to that list. So these guys really believe in muhurta. So they said, whether we will be able to sell the house fast or not, and whether we will be able to sell it for a good price or not, depends on when you actually sign the agreement with the realtor. So there was a realtor with whom they signed an agreement for selling this house, and they wanted to sign that at the right muhurta, at a perfect muhurta. So they asked me for a muhurta for signing a realtor agreement, whether you believe it or not. So I gave them a muhurta at something like 3 o'clock in the morning. They woke up at that time. They woke up and then they signed it at that time, and then they slept. They made sure that they got the agreement etc. earlier. They kept it in their home. They woke up at that time. I did a specific puja. I told them a specific puja. At that time they did the specific prayer and then they signed. And then within 1 week their house was sold. And they believe that even though other houses are still on sale, this particular house was sold so quickly. So they believe that it is because of the power of this muhurta. It could be. The thing is, there are so many stages. Each stage is important. Don't think that even the moment when you decided, okay, I am going to sell my house, you finally, until then you were thinking, finally you decided, I will sell this house, period. We are selling this house, putting it on sale, we are moving. That muhurta is also important. But again, you can't ask for a muhurta and then make the decision at that time. Certain things just happen. But the thing is, all these are contributing. The time is important. And when you finally sign the agreement is important. And when somebody comes to see the house is important. All these things. So there are so many different muhurtas that contribute. So basically the long answer to your simple question is, there are so many things that are important, but we can't look at all those. So we just look at the most important one, the most determining factor, and ignore all other contributing factors. That's basically what we do. So let us look at an example that I'll do the same example that I did in the class there in California. So let us take a marriage that happened. The muhurta is January 24, 1999, 5:25 a.m. Indian Standard Time, 5 hours 30 minutes east of GMT. Hyderabad, India. 78 degrees 28 minutes east, 17 degrees 23 minutes north. So this is the marriage muhurta. At this muhurta, it was basically Magha Shukla Saptami. The first half of the Magha month is very popular for marriages. So they got married in that Magha Masam. So this is the muhurta for their marriage. Now let us say, I believe it was 2001. Yeah, it is 2001. So in 2001 they got married.
The earlier date was what is that?
1999.
What was that?
January 25, I believe.
No, why there are?
January 24. What?
This is their muhurta.
This is the muhurta when they got married. Okay? So at that time, a new entity called their marriage was born. Okay? And then a son was born in 2001 September end. At the end of September 2001, they had a son.
Right.
Okay? Now what we want to do is,
first we draw the chart for muhurta, then we took a Tithi Pravesh.
Yeah, you can take Tithi Pravesh every year.
Right.
You can take Tithi Pravesh for this year, for example, to see how their relationship this year will be.
Okay.
You can draw Tithi Pravesh for last year to see how the relationship was last year.
But that is from the muhurta chart.
Yeah, from the muhurta chart. You make Tithi Pravesh from the muhurta chart. Okay? This muhurta chart is basically a mundane chart now. And you can make Tithi Pravesh for it to see how that entity which was born at that time progresses during that 1 year period. Okay? So,
This is not from classics.
This is not from classics. See, Tithi Pravesh is not from classics. Okay? But this is granted by tradition. The same tradition that granted Tithi Pravesh also grants this. So, on January 24, 1999 at 5:25 a.m., it was Magha Shukla Saptami, right? Sun was in Capricorn, it was Makara Masam, and it was Magha Shukla Saptami, 38.04% was left in Magha Shukla Saptami. And here, on January 31, 2001, again Magha Shukla Saptami came, again in Makara Masam, and again the percentage left is 38.04%. So if a person was born at the time of their marriage, this would be their Tithi Pravesh chart.
Right.
So this shows how the marriage will progress during that year. Right? So who is the ruler of the year?
Moon.
The Hora Lord is Moon. The ruler of the year is Moon.
Right.
Right? Now, how is Moon?
11th Lord in the 8th house.
How is Moon? For me?
He's a man for
Yeah, he is in MKS. Excellent, I never thought of it. Nice acronym. MKS. Okay, Moon is in MKS. M is in MKS. No, okay, Moon is in Manakargasthana. Now what else? How is Lagna Lord? Are there any indications of childbirth? The thing is, you don't expect clear-cut combinations here because this is not person's chart. But are there any indications of childbirth at all?
Jupiter in 9th house is good.
Jupiter in 9th house is good, okay. Who are important for childbirth? If childbirth is a project, who is the project manager? Using our analogy, corporate analogy from long back. Because I just hammered on that analogy in the class. So, who is the project manager?
the fifth lord and Jupiter.
No, project manager. The project manager is Karaka. According to our analogy, the house is basically the group that is handling that project, the main group that is handling the project. House manager is like group manager.
What I'm saying is fifth Lord Saturn and the Karaka of children. They both
Okay, you are
together
jumping
in
ahead.
the
Good,
same
good.
time.
So fifth Lord Saturn, the Lord of the house corresponding to childbirth, and the Karaka, they are both together. That too in a trine. So the Yuti, the yoga of Karaka and the house Lord is a good combination, right? So that is one auspicious factor. What else? What else?
Is that Raja Yoga too? 5th and 9th Lord together?
What 5th and 9th Lord together?
Saturn-
5th and 7th, 4th Lord.
5th and 7th.
5th and 7th, also 5th and 4th. Yeah, it's a Raj Yoga. It's a nice Raj Yoga. So that Saturn-Jupiter combination is very auspicious. So it can actually show birth of a child. Are there any other links? Let us say Putra Sahamam. That is another thing that I hopped on in the class. Sahamams and this energy. And Argalas. Look at the Argalas. Because Parashara says if there is Argala on 5th house, children will flourish. If there is Argala on 2nd house, there will be a lot of wealth. So in a Tithi Pravesh chart, if there is a strong Argala on a house, there will be excellent results relating to that house during that year. So we used Argalas, aspects, Sahamas, and then my analogy, Karaka, house lord, etc.
Argala, but it depends upon from whom.
Yeah. No, actually,
So it could be.
if you remember what we discussed on Argala, if there is an Argala from 3 or more planets, it gives excellent results relating to that house. Whether results are given fully or half depends on whether the planets are functional benefics or neutrals or malefics. So go back to the Argala class and refresh. Now the thing is, where is Putra Sahamam?
Putra Sahamam is Leo.
Putra Sahamam, the important point in the zodiac, sensitive point in the zodiac relating to children is in Leo, 18 degrees Leo. Okay?
Right.
Where is the Lord of Putra Sahamam? Putra Sahamam should have some links.
Aspecting it directly.
He's in fifth house.
Fifth house.
He's in fifth
Sun.
house and aspecting
He is in 5th house, aspecting
Putra
Putra
Sahamam.
Sahamam. Sun is, see here, 18 degrees. Sun is exactly in 18 degrees Capricorn. So Sun is in the that too in the 5th house of children. The Putra Sahamam Lord is in the house of children. Do you want North Indian style? Yeah. The Putra Sahamam Lord, Putra Sahamam which is at 18 degrees Leo, is Lord Sun is in the 5th house of children. And not only that, he is aspecting the Putra Sahamam. Is it only Rashi Drishti or is there Graha Drishti of Sun on Putra Sahamam?
Only Rashi.
I see. Okay, this is another point I harped a little bit on in the class. What I said is, when you do Graha Drishti, people often forget the
Second.
3/4 and half and 1/4 drishtis. The rule is everybody has a drishti on the 7th house from them, full aspect, 100% aspect. In addition, 4th and 8th house aspect, that is 3/4 aspect. All planets have it, not just Mars. All planets aspect the 4th and 8th from them, but only 3/4 aspect. And all planets will aspect the 5th and 9th houses from them, but only half aspect. All planets will aspect the 3rd and 10th houses from them, but only quarter aspect. But in the case of Mars, Jupiter and Saturn respectively, these aspects are basically full aspects. That's the rule. People use
5 and 9, right?
half is 5 and 9.
Half is 5 and 9.
And
3/4 is 4 and 8,
1/4 is
3 and 10. Saturn is 1/4, Jupiter is half, Mars is 3/4, he is stronger. So normally when you look at Graha Drishti, people use only the full aspects. That is actually not right. And as a matter of fact, I must tell you, even that's not right. If a planet, let us say, is in Sun is, let's say, at 18 degrees in Capricorn, we say that 18 degrees Cancer has full drishti by him, the 7th house aspect, right? But if you go to, let's say, 0 degree Cancer, his aspect is almost negligible. Because the end of Gemini basically he doesn't aspect, it's the 6th house, no planet aspects the 6th house. And Cancer he has full aspect. So it's not that on the border the aspect suddenly changes from 0 to 100. Parasara actually gave a gradation. Depending on the exact longitude of the point being aspected and the point that is aspecting, he gave a formula to decide how the aspect goes. It's a nice curve. You can actually study it, or maybe we will take it up later in one of the later classes. But the bottom line is, if a planet is in Cancer, he has full Grahadrushti from Sun, but only if he is at 18 degrees. Let us say he is at 8 degrees. He is basically 10 degrees away. So it's probably, I don't know, I have to do math, but it's maybe 30%, 40% kind of aspect. It's not a full aspect anymore. So compared to that, if there is exact 3/4 aspect on a point, you better take that into account. It's not negligible at all. And even if you ignore all the gradation that I mentioned now, all the degrees, etc., slow increase, slow decrease, even if you ignore it, still 3/4 is almost like 100%. It's almost full if you round it. Even half you should not ignore.
So just a side note on this. For example, if it is at 2 degrees, then at 2 degrees, it's 180 degrees opposite, so he is 100%.
Yeah.
But as it gradually reduces, it goes into the 6th house.
Yeah.
So will it ever have anything in the 6th house, or because it...
In the 6th house there will not be any drishti.
But though it was 100% at 2 degrees and it just crossed 2 degrees...
Oh, you are talking about, okay.
I'm talking
There actually Grahadrushti is not based on the rasis that the planet is in. It's only based on the angle between the aspected body and the body that's aspecting. For example, let us say Sun is, let us say, at half degree in Capricorn. He just came to Capricorn half day back. He is only half degree advanced in Capricorn, okay. His 100% aspect is on half degree Cancer. So if you go to 29.5 degrees Gemini, it is still almost 100% aspect. There is a 90+% aspect on that point.
Though it is the 6th house.
Though it is the 6th house.
Being in the 6th house or 4th house.
Yeah. That 6th house, 7th house terminology is for our convenience. Actually, it is defined in terms of the degrees. It is not Rashi based. Rashi based aspect is Rashi Drishti. This is Graha Drishti based on the angles of planets.
Where the planets are.
Angle between the planet and the aspected point. Okay. This is just based on the distance from the planet. Okay. So now the thing is, if you do all that analysis, you will find that the aspect on 18 degrees Leo by 18 degrees Capricorn Sun is exact 8th house, exactly, almost up to the degree. Only minutes is different. So his aspect is basically like between 70-75%.
Complete 3/4.
Complete 3/4 aspect. Now we have a different terminology. Complete 3/4, half 3/4, 70% 3/4. Bottom line is, you come up with a number between 0 and 100. His aspect is very, very full here. So you just cannot ignore it. So the Putra Sahamam Lord has a extremely close 75% aspect on Putra Sahamam from the 5th house. So that's very auspicious, right? And is there anybody else aspecting the Putra Sahamam? Mercury has Grahadrushti, right?
Lagna Lord.
He is Lagna Lord and also he is Putrakarka, Chara Putrakarka. So Lagna Lord and Putrakarka, he is aspecting the Putra Sahamam. Is there anybody else aspecting Putra Sahamam? Mars? Okay. Now let's say Grahadrushti. Who has a desire to give child during this year? Putra Sahamam, Grahadrushti. Any other planets?
Rahu has third aspect.
No. If everybody in the class agrees, we can have a consensus and come up with that new principle for today. But according to standard rules, it doesn't. Who else? I just now said 4th and 8th house aspect is 3/4. Don't ignore it.
Jupiter has.
Pardon me?
Jupiter.
Yeah. Jupiter at 7 degrees Taurus and Saturn at 0 degrees Taurus. Saturn's case is very marginal.
Jupiter has.
But the thing is, it's not actually that marginal. It's a transition between 4th house aspect and 5th house aspect. It's a transition between 3/4 to half aspect. So it is still a considerable aspect. So Saturn has aspect on it and Jupiter does too. The exact 4th house from him, Jupiter has an aspect on it. So this is basically 11 degrees away. So it's not exact 75%, but there is some aspect of Jupiter. So Saturn and Jupiter have 4th house aspect. So the Putrakaraka aspects it. The Chara Putrakaraka aspects it. The Lord of it who is placed in the 5th house aspects it. And the Lord of the 5th house is himself. He aspects Putra Sahamam. So all the planets are just hammering on Putra Sahamam. So that is auspicious. And there are other links, all the links that we have mentioned. In addition, are there any argalas on the putra sthana?
So we should see the fifth house, not the Putra Sahamam's.
You can see on putra sahamam also, are there any argalas? If there are any argalas on that, that is also good. But the thing is, now that's not the case. That is why I am just jumping to the fifth house. You can see on the fifth house, you can see on the fifth lord, you can see argalas on planets also. So if you see the argala on the fifth house, how many argalas are there? Does Mercury have an argala?
Yes.
Yes, one.
But Ketu,
Does Ketu have an argala?
Oh yeah.
Yes, two argalas.
Moon has a
Moon, fourth.
Is it obstructed by anybody?
no, it's not.
No. Basically, the dhanargala is caused by any planet in the second house, except Rahu and Ketu, or Rahu and Ketu in the 12th house. So both Ketu and Mercury have argala on Capricorn. And it is countered by any planets in Sagittarius other than Rahu and Ketu, or Rahu or Ketu in Aquarius. Those are the countering houses. So there is no countering. Only Mercury and Ketu are adding to each other argala. So that is one thing. Is there any 4th house argala? Moon. But 10th house Mars is countering it. So it's basically 3, but one is cancelled. So let's just say 2 so far. And then Saturn and Jupiter, 5th house. So 2 more. Those are unobstructed by nobody in Virgo, because there is nobody in Virgo. So 2 more. So how many argalas are there overall? 4 argalas. 5 minus 1 is 4. So there are 4 argalas on the 5th house. 3 or more is Uttama results according to Parashara. Full results. So because of that, as far as argala is concerned, 5th house has very strong argala. So the dasha of any of these planets, Mercury, Ketu, Moon, Saturn, Jupiter, those dashas are capable of giving a child. So if you see the Tithi Ashtotri dasha, and this is another point that I mentioned in the class, which is, if you use the Tithi Ashtotri along with these mundane charts, along with these Tithi Praveshas of Muhurtas, it doesn't seem to be working very nicely. In other words, the best candidate is not necessarily giving the results, like in the case of natal Tithi Pravesh. I am not sure why, but that is my finding. So, in several examples, you can also see examples. I am not saying it doesn't work, but it works, but you can't say, oh, it works clearly. Whereas in natal charts, if you find Tithi Pravesh, the Tithi Ashtotri of the strongest candidates usually gives the results. So you can just make a prediction. So here, the child was born in Moon Dasha.
I expected a sun. I thought sun.
We would have expected Sun or Saturn or Jupiter. That would have been our expectation. But not really Moon. But the thing is, like I said earlier,
Moon is the Vara.
everybody in a particular project may work hard. Yes, everybody in a particular project may work hard and make a nice presentation, and it may be the CEO who goes and gives the presentation. So CEO has the chance of, basically CEO means the ruler of the year here in terms of our analogy. So the Hora Lord Moon, being the ruler of the year, the auspicious events of the year, he can just come and give.
As you are saying, it could be the Sun, Saturn or Jupiter.
Yeah.
Their argala on somebody can make the thing happen, right?
No.
Not reverse.
Because they are the planets who can influence
Yeah.
for the childbirth at the time.
Yeah.
So they are not able to give at the time during their phase, but in Moon's phase, both Jupiter and Saturn have argala on Moon.
Yeah.
So
No, that is 8th house argala.
We are confusing. Let us leave that stream of thought. If Moon has argala on a particular planet, he can give the results of that planet in his dasha. Actually, Antardasha according to Parashara, but in Tithi Pravesh we are using dasha. In natal chart, if you use Vimshotri or Narayan dasha, you use the Antardasha. Argala of a planet will give its result in the Antardasha. That is what Parashara explicitly thought. But in Tithi Pravesh, I find that dasha itself can be used because it's already very narrow. So, if Moon has argala on the 5th house, he can give the result of that argala. If Moon has argala on Sun, he can give the results of Sun. That's it. But you don't say Moon, Saturn and Jupiter have argala on Moon. So in Moon Dasha, Saturn and Jupiter results are given. That is actually the reverse. Okay, so let us not do that. Now, on the other hand, Saturn and Jupiter have argala on Moon. So Moon is in the 8th house in Manakarka Sthana. So he can give some anxiety, tension, etc. So Saturn and Jupiter can give that result in their dasha. But Moon doesn't give their result in his dasha. But Moon can give Sun's result because he has argala on Sun. Moon can give the 5th house result. He has Argala on the 5th house. Now another thing, I taught you earlier that if there is an Argala, the result can be given in the Antardasha of the Argala giving planet, right? Now the thing is, there are 5 Argalas. One of them is obstructed. But don't think that whose Argala is obstructed will not give the result. One of the unobstructing Argala guys will give the result. Don't think that. Even if a particular Argala is obstructed, still Argala giving planet can give the result in his Antardasha. Okay? So here, Mercury, Ketu, Moon, Saturn, Jupiter, any of them could have given childbirth as far as Argala is concerned. Especially if the Argala is being broken, it is like one person comes and says, suppose there is a big board meeting in which they are discussing the fate of various projects. So suppose this guy says, no, this project needs to be done because we need to use that chip. These guys are making the chip. We need to use that chip in our product. So apart from external customers, we have an internal dependency. So this project must go on. But somebody else, another group may come and say, well, instead of that chip, you may use this chip. So it's not a big deal. Like that, there may be somebody obstructing this particular influence. Argalas are basically like special interest groups. Several people who basically have a particular interest in mind and try to promote that interest in the board meeting relating to that project. And then let us say all the other persons come and help the stand of this person. They support the stand. So the one who is being obstructed may even be more stubborn to give the result because he is being put down when he gets the help of other people. So don't think that Moon, because his Argala is broken, will not give the result. You will find in many cases that even though a planet's Argala is broken, because as far as that planet is concerned, he is supporting the matters. So he will give the results.
But if he is the only one Argala which has been obstructed,
yeah,
that means
then result may not even, there may not be even significant results relating to that house. Okay? Only one who is basically being put down, he will give the results of what he stands for. If there are other people standing for the same thing along with him and supporting him, then he will get the strength to give the result. And in any case, here the fact that Moon is also the ruler of the year, that definitely helps. Ruler of the year always is a top candidate for giving a result. And if you just use the Vimshottari Dasha itself, the standard Vimshottari Dasha compressed to a year, it is Saturn Dasha. It was the last, I think September 30 or September 29, September 28, basically those 3 days. That's when the childbirth happened. It was Saturn Dasha. Saturn Dasha, Saturn Antardasha. And again, that makes even more sense than Moon.
Is it Moon?
no, in
Tithi Ashtotri, it was Moon. In Vimshottari, it is Saturn. So, based on both the Dashas, the candidate is running. Basically, in the class, I taught 3 Dashas. Tithi Ashtotri, Nakshatra Dasha, either Vimshottari or Drisaptatisama or Shatabdika or whatever applies. And finally, Narayan Dasha. There is a variation of Narayan Dasha. I don't know if I ever mentioned, I probably did. It works very well with Tithi Pravesh. It's called, you find the Rashi is Narayan Dasha. In the software, there is an option called Sama Narayan Dasha. You use that. It's basically Narayan Dasha based progression, but you divide equally. You don't look at how away the planet is from the sign and then give the years based on it. You don't do that counting. So it's basically, it's like Shola Dasha basically, except that it progresses like Narayan Dasha. So equal, all the 12 Dashas are equal in length, each 1 month. So as per this Dasha, if you see September 23 to October 23, 2001 is Taurus Dasha. So as per Samanarayana Dasha, Taurus Dasha was running. Again, does it make sense?
yes.
Yeah, Taurus is, which sign would we have expected? Either Capricorn or Taurus.
Right.
Capricorn because it's the 5th house, Taurus because it has Saturn and Jupiter. It has the 5th Lord and 5th Karka. So for both, and also its Lord is exalted and aspects the 5th house from that.
Parivartana between Jupiter and Venus.
Yes, there is a Parivartana between Jupiter and Venus. So gives some kind of rectification of desire during that particular Dasha. Because if you take that Dasha as the Lagna basically, there is an exchange between Lagna and 11th Lord. So it can give some kind of rectification. So overall, that makes sense. Saturn, Taurus Dasha giving the result. So it was Taurus, Saturn and Moon. That is the combination. So that is when they had a childbirth. So like this, you can, if you have a child, you can look at your own marriage muhurta. Take the muhurta See the year when you had a childbirth. Or a particular year, let us say you know somebody, they got divorced in a particular year. Take the muhurta. See the Tithi chart that was active at the time of divorce. Or take the Tithi chart at the time they started fighting a lot. You will see some correlation. You have to see some correlation. For example, I just did one example in the class. I just mentioned this point and did one example. But let me take one more example.
Question on this.
Yes, go ahead.
While some couple are fighting heavily and they are trying right now to fight. Somebody is trying.
Yeah.
They might even take a divorce or
Yeah.
things are going on in that case. So their birth charts are not really accurate. But
Yeah.
if I take their
Muhurta. You know the
marriage,
muhurta?
that I may be able to get that. Yes,
No,
or
then
no.
you use that. If you have the birth chart, give that preference. If you don't have, use this.
At least we can go with the remedies with that. I mean,
No, that is the question.
Yeah.
So from this, can we also suggest?
You can suggest remedies.
Okay.
You can suggest remedies from it. If not anything, see the thing is, if you see something bad here, let's say 7th Lord is in 8th house in a particular year's annual chart, you can guess that there will be some quarrels, some fights, etc. But you can't guess that it will be divorce. So for seeing really big things like is there a divorce or not, you better have the natal chart. But you will be able to see some vulnerable periods here. So suppose 7th Lord is in 8th house and his Antardasha is going on right now. His Dasha is going on right now.
So we can only time things, but how about the remedial part?
Yeah, you can do remedies. But what I am saying is, if you pick a time when the Dasha is conducive to some kind of patch up, if you suggest remedies based on that, it may work better.
So get the time of remedy from here and go back to natal to suggest the exact.
You can say, if you don't have the natal, suggest the remedy also from here. But what I am saying is, you should set the expectations. If you say, suppose right now terrible Dasha is running, after 40 days, after let's say 1 month is getting over, and then a very optimistic kind of Dasha is going to come. If you tell them, do this puja for 7 days, results will come, they will get disheartened. 7 days, nothing will happen, they will still be fighting. If you see that after 30 days, a good Dasha is coming, then tell him, do for 40 days. There may not be anything important about that 40 days. But you think that after 40 days, there is a good chance of something positive happening. So you can basically, you can use a little bit of psychology, a little bit of astrology, and then suggest your remedies accordingly. Usually when I say, sometimes I say do 40 days, do this particular thing 40 days. Sometimes I say 60 days. Sometimes I say 108 days. I do it based on when a good period is going to come. If I select a period so that at the end of that, a good Dasha is running, when there is some relief being shown in the chart, then whether the puja works or not, there will be some relief. They think that the puja works. And it's not cheating also, it's basically synchronizing various factors.
So if the good Dasha is
And let's say good Dasha is not coming at all, this whole year is terrible. You should prepare them for the worst. You should tell them, this year looks bad, but I feel that next year is much better. That is another thing that I do most of the times. Suppose I see a really bad year, not muhurta wise, but even in natal chart. The person is struggling in career, they have a own business, and things are looking really terrible. And I look at the next year, it looks a little better, but I am not really hopeful that they will be out of their problems. They will still struggle. Unfortunately, if I say, man, you are going to struggle for 10 years, there is no hope for the person. So what I do is, this year is really terrible, next year seems a little better, not too great, but it seems much better, do these pujas. And the thing is, if the person starts doing the pujas, there may not be full relief, but the thing is, the person may be at least, he has something to expect. Always what human beings want is something positive. They have this concept of positive and negative. If there isn't any such concept, excellent, you are happiest person. But unfortunately, we do. So you have to give them something positive to look at. And as long as they think after 2 years things are going to be fine, they can live with that hope. So sometimes you have to basically compromise a little bit on what you are saying. You may say something that's not really accurate. So if you see that next 3 years are bad, don't really say it. Say this year is really terrible, next year seems a lot better, but you know what, it may not be really perfect still. But after 3 years, man, it will be excellent. If you say like that, then they will look at the 3-year period and also look at the next year, because it's a lot better. You said it's a lot better. The thing is, they may not be fully happy. When they look back, they may think that, they may not say, whatever he said is perfect. But the thing is, it's not important. You are just giving some hope. You should not mislead too much, but at the same time you should not be too honest also. It doesn't serve the purpose. So you have to, this comes with practice. With practice you know how to understand the psychology of the person and give the advice accordingly. This is basically advice. You are not deciding the future. Your job is not to show everything on a TV what is going to happen in his life. That's not our job. Our job is to give some advice so that they are a little bit prepared for what the fate has decided for them. Anyway, coming back to the point, if you think that this year is bad but next year is good, let us say after 9 months things are going to be good, then you prepare the first person. This year is really like the zenith in your relationship. So if you take any drastic decision during this time, it's not going to be good. This is not a good time to take drastic decisions. Wait for 9 months. My feeling is after 9 months, your new year will start and that chart looks much better. So I think that next year is going to be much better. But what you can do is to reduce the suffering during these 9 months. You can do so and so pujas. Then things will be a little better, but after next year things will be much better. So you can say in that tone.
So the good desa is going to start say 3 months from now.
Yeah.
If you tell them 108 days do this, or will you say after 90 days this 2 weeks really do this?
Why not start now? So if there is a 1 year period, I would tell them to do for 1 year. But then don't tell them to do Chandi Path 9 times every day. Tell them something small, something that they can. Based on the nature of the person, if you think that he has a lot of devotion, tell them something big. If he is somebody who doesn't know any mantras, if you say Om Durgaya Namaha, he has to say Om what? Om Dur what? If he is that kind of person, just tell him Sri Ram Ram Rama. Just tell him Om Namah Shivaya. Simple. So you have to decide what you suggest based on the capability of the person. And another thing is sometimes it is worth it to be extremely honest also, depending on your relation with the person, how well you know the person. For example, I know one lady, she wanted to get divorced. She was, but not fully decided because she has 2 children. And she is an Indian lady, relatively traditional Indian lady. But she was fed up with her marriage. She wanted to go for divorce. And when I see that things are bad. The best period is basically over. For the last several years they are struggling. It's a struggle in marriage, and I expect it for the next maybe 15 years. It's going to be like this. Basically live with it. Get used to it. There is nothing you can really do about it. And even if she gets married again, I don't see any hope. And I would suggest it only in really extreme cases. Suggesting divorce is a terrible karma for you. So, and in any case, in that particular case, that doesn't suggest any hope. So I told her, well, so and so time from 96 to 2001 was the best period in your marriage. From then onwards, a bad dasha started. Then she asked, how long is it going to be there? How many more years? I said, 15 more years. And then she said, oh great. And then she said, what if I get married again? I said, well, it will be the same. You may get married to a different person, or you may get married to 2 different people, one marriage, divorce, another marriage. It will be like this. This is how your life will be. This is the story of your life for the next 15 years. Just get used to it. And then she said, okay, fine. She's getting used to it now. So sometimes, if you think that you can just be honest with the person, you can be honest also. Especially when it is so long, there is not really much false hope you can keep on giving. But if there is some hope, you can magnify that hope. If there is some hope coming, you can slightly magnify it, so that the person has something to look forward to. So all this you learn with experience.
Actually, a question.
Yeah.
7th Lord in 8th is quarrel, or 7th Lord in 6th is quarrel?
Both is bad. 7th Lord in 8th is basically, it can even be a divorce. It's the end of the marriage, because it's the maraka from 7th house, 8th house. Whereas 6th is just some compromise in 7th. It's a
12 from 7.
Yeah, sorry, it's 12 from 7. So it's basically some compromise in the relationship, some giving in the relationship. So it's also 6th house is quarrel. So it's some fighting. Somebody has to basically go down and withdraw. It's basically that. So it's actually, if you ask me, that is better. 7th Lord in 6th gives lot of fights, but they may be together so that they can fight. If the 7th Lord is in 8th house, there may not be an opportunity to fight. That is even worse.
What about 8th Lord in 7th?
Yeah, that is also terrible. Because Maraka is in the 7th house. You are telling him, take care.
7th and 8th.
7th and 8th, 8th and 7th is both really bad.
Or 8 in 1.
Yeah.
But 7th Lord is like a spouse.
Yeah.
That is different from 8th Lord in 7th.
Yeah. There is a difference, but both are, as far as the stability of the marriage is concerned, both are destabilizing factors. 7th Lord in 8 and 8th Lord in 7.
I think that is the thing. 7th Lord in 8 or 8th Lord in 7 will depend upon who is initiating the trouble and who is trying to get to that. Maybe.
You think so?
Yeah, if 7th Lord in 8, then the spouse may be the one who is trying to initiate the thing to go, or if the other way, then
The native is trying to give trouble to the spouse.
Yeah, it makes some sense. Okay, actually we are 11:43. We'll end the class today. We will continue 2 weeks later, and you can look at some examples for this, and then if you find any doubts you can bring them. Otherwise we'll just do our regular normal examples. So if you have any chart that you want us to analyze, we'll see.
for the muhurtas and muhurta mundane analysis, we
Yeah.
said, unfortunately we don't have the data for when we started the book.
Oh, when we started the book, okay.
Volume 2.
Volume 2,
Oh, I
that's
see, I
not
see.
taking off.
Yeah.
We don't have the muhurta.
I wrote the date actually, I don't know the time. Time may be 12 o'clock.
Yeah. Well, good luck. Keep doing, and hopefully it will get done. Maybe if something is not taking off, you can restart it. If something has been stopped for a while, sometimes you can restart it. Basically, have a second muhurta. Then you can restart that particular thing.
Yeah, but in the case of your first book, when you
Yeah.
said that even though you had several muhurtas after that, but the first one still had the effect, you said?
Yeah, first one will still have the effect. But the thing is, it may not be the determining effect. There may be some other contributing effects that you will be introducing. So that can pull. That can pull everything out of the woods. So the thing is, you are not really changing that. That is still there. But by adding something else to the chain of destiny, you are basically adding some weight. If the one that you are adding is positive enough to remove the negativity of, offset the negativity of all those, or to basically bring to the front the positivity of all those, which is hidden by some other factors, suddenly things can take off. So that is why, suppose there is a board, there is an executive committee in a company, things are not going well. Sometimes one person can come and join, and then one person can be made a board of directors. Suddenly things can take off. If that person balances the karmas of all other people, things will take off. So just like that, think of this, starting at a new muhurta, restarting at a new muhurta, like that. So if you think that it's not happening, then you can select a nice muhurta, you can just pray to Ganesh, Sri Ganesha, and then restart. Everybody think, okay, at this time I am going to restart. 3 or 4 people at the same time start writing again after saying Ganesha's name. Maybe this time it will get done quickly. Select a nice muhurta for it. Okay? And in general these days, Tula is a good lagna. In general these days. You have Jupiter in lagna, Venus and Saturn, especially after Sun moves away to Leo, Sun and Mars will be together in their own signs. And Venus, Mercury and Saturn, they are all together in Cancer. Cancer is a very fruitful sign, very auspicious sign. It's a sign of creation, of Brahma. And Venus, Saturn and Mercury, if you take Tula Lagna, they will all become the Lagna Lord, 5th Lord and 9th Lord. So all the 3 trine lords together will be in Cancer, in the 10th house.
When that is
In general, most of the coming days, after Sun moves away, in a few days, Sun is going to move away to Cancer, Leo. Sun is there also, okay, but the thing is, he is Badhaka in the 10th house, and also he is with Saturn. Sun-Saturn combination is not really that auspicious. So in a few days, basically, where is Sun now? 27 degrees he is. So 3 more days, Sun is going to move away to Leo. So then Sun and Mars combination is not bad at all. They are both friends. And Moon, Venus and Saturn, they will be the Lagna Lord, 5th and 4th Lord Yogakaraka Saturn, Lagna Lord Venus and 9th Lord Mercury. So all the trine lords along with the Yogakaraka Saturn, they will be sitting in the 10th house. Especially for Tula Lagna, Saturn in the 10th house is a Raj Yoga, Simhasana Yoga, and he is Yogakaraka too. So there are so many brilliant yogas in the 10th house of karma, of accomplishments. So if you do anything at such a, and Rahu will be in the 6th house of obstructing, beating down the enemies. So on any good tithi, good nakshatra, if you pick Tula Lagna in the coming few days, coming couple of weeks, actually for next Sunday, for my son's Upanayanam, That was the muhurta that we picked. We picked the Tula Lagna with Jupiter exactly on Lagna. Pardon me?
How long did the Tula that last?
Usually it's around midnight, noon time.
Noon time?
You can find the software to. It will be a couple of hours.
This will be so till about October, November till Jupiter moves to the other one.
Yeah, but the thing is that Mercury, Venus, Saturn combination won't be there.
Right.
That is really good. In general, Jupiter being in Lagna is good. Rahu in the 6th house, Ketu in 12th house for spiritual activities is good. But Mercury, Venus, Saturn combination in Cancer right now is a very auspicious combination, especially after Sun moves away. So you can take advantage of that. If you have any good deeds that you want to start, where some good karma has to be done, some important work has to be accomplished, then you can do that. So you can pick a day. If you ask me, someday Tula Lagna after Sun moves away after 3 days, just pick a time, sometime around noon time. So in your lunch at office, just take a step away, just sit down, say Om Ganesha, Om Sri Ganeshaya Namah, say it 11 times or 12 times, and then just start writing.
It should happen in next 8 days because Mercury will move out in next 8 days.
Try if you can do it in the next 8 days, next week basically, maybe next Friday or whatever. That can be good.
Not this Friday. Friday from this Friday, right?
Just next Friday.
Coming Friday.
Yeah, coming Friday may be good. I just said it because it's Ekadashi, or maybe Thursday. So that's me. If you pick a reasonable tithi, and if you pick Jupiter in Lagna, you can't go wrong. The only thing is Sun will be in Gandanta, but don't worry too much about it. There are all other positives which can take care. In general, if you have Jupiter in Lagna, that will be blessed. So maybe you can do that. Just a thought.
It is next 8 days, I think. Why don't we set that up again?
Yeah. Just send a mail.
If you wait for 8 days, then the day is gone.
Yeah. Then today is 13, let's say 18. Or let's say Jupiter Vara. Again, this has gone into really slow mode. Mrugashirsha Nakshatra. So either Ekadashi or Mrugashira, both are good. But if we take the previous day, Sun will be in the first degree of Leo. That is even deeper Gandanta. At least here he is past the first degree, the first Trimshamsa. So this may be good. Mrugashirsha Nakshatra. Moon will be in the 9th house instead of 8th house. Actually previous day, Moon will be in Rohini, in Taurus, 8th house. 10th Lord in Mankargasthana, exalted but in Mankargasthana. So this seems good, if you ask me. So Moon will be in Rohini, in Mrugashirsha. He will be in the sign of Gemini. So there is a parivartana between Moon and Mercury. 9th and 10th Lord parivartana, Dharma Karmadhipati Yoga. So this muhurta looks good. So at the time that I have, 11:47, which is current time, Lagna is at 9 degrees Leo, Libra, whereas Jupiter is at 17 degrees. So if you wait some more time, maybe another 45 minutes or so, Lagna will be exactly on Jupiter. So you can look at Navamsha also. Actually, why don't we do that? If you look at the Navamsha,
It's Friday, right?
yeah. See, if you put Meena Navamsha Lagna also along with Jupiter, then Mercury will be in the 10th house of fulfilling, in Navamsha, in the 10th house of accomplishment. You are trying to write a book. So if my advice is,
From where are you looking at?
this is Navamsha in the Muhurta, right?
Okay.
I want the Lagna to be in Pisces. Right now it's Sagittarius. So for it to go 3 signs, you have to add approximately 45 minutes. So let's say 12:30. I'm using South Grafton, but you can, whatever town you are using, you can add 1 or 2 minutes so that you are, see, it is 17 degrees. 17 means at 16:40 Lagna will change. So this is right on the border. So you can add a little more. You can say 12:35 or 12:40. So between 12:35 and 12:40 if you do, as long as you are in the Boston area, wherever you are, mostly it will be, yeah. At 12:35 in South Grafton, it is 18 degrees. Libra, 18 degrees is the Lagna. So then Jupiter will be definitely very close to the Lagna. So Jupiter's energy will be there. Jupiter will have just risen. Instead of Jupiter just under the horizon, if he is just above the horizon, it is better. So Lagna's degree should be a little more than Jupiter's degree. Okay? Then Jupiter has risen. So
Lagna both in Jupiter with Lagna both in.
Yeah, everywhere actually. Most divisional charts will be in Lagna because he is exactly on Lagna, almost up to the minutes. So if you do around 12:35, you can add 1 minute or subtract 1 minute based on your location. But try this thing just below 18 degrees Libra, Jupiter. So if you do that, that will be Meen Lagna. Sun is exalted in the 6th house. Saturn and Ketu in the 11th. Overall it looks good. Venus and Mars, their situation in the 8th is not that good, but it's not bad at all. Venus is in 1 house, 8th house. Moreover, Mercury in the 10th house I really like. Jupiter in Lagna is the savior. He gives wisdom, intelligence. And Jupiter in the 10th house helps you accomplish something relating to writing, relating to Mercury. So try to do this on this Friday at around 12:35. Restart it.
Wherever you are at your local time.
Wherever you are, at least 3 of you. 3 of you, or could be more also. At least 3 of you at that time, at the same time, decide earlier, same time. Say Om Ganeshaya Namah and then do whatever prayers we do at the beginning of the class, Hare Ram Krishna, and then say, this time I hope that this book will be done very quickly, and then restart.
Because I believe this book.
Maybe I'll do that too for the Tithi Pravesh book.
Okay. No,
Yeah.
because this book will serve really well for maybe coming 5-10 years later.
Yeah.
Just somebody looking at a 90-100 hour audio is really not going to make sense.
Yeah.
Don't know where to go for what.
Yeah.
So this book will definitely be a very good index for this.
Right. That's why. So good luck, all the best, and we will meet 2 weeks from now. Okay? Namaskar. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.